You succeeded.
So, Woody, just so you know, every once in a while, I'm going to get up and check these cameras. And so if you're talking to me...
Just keep talking.
Just keep talking.
Okay.
And maybe look at the camera, or look past me, or,
Okay.
or go into your own thing.
Gotcha.
But you get it. But don't go, why are you standing up? We don't want that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so...
So, my whole thing is, I've been a singer-songwriter for 27, it'll be 28 years March 5th. And every time I've been able to pay a musician, it's made me really happy. You know, to give them money to play on a record or to play at a gig. It's really gratifying because I know how hard it is to make a living as a singer-songwriter and as an artist, period. I know tons of artists in every medium. And so anytime I'm able to give money to somebody, it's just hugely gratifying. And what I want to be able to do is pay people really well, you know. In order to do that, you have to make money and you have to get really good. And so for this 27 years, almost 28, my whole thing, in the beginning it was like, oh, I thought about this and that, and I realized anybody who wants fame, that's just crap. Fame means nothing, music means everything. I've been saying that, I post it everywhere. It's like fame means nothing, music means everything. And so the idea, the fame, everything is just in cahoots to get my music out to more people. Because really all I'm trying to do is improve and get so good that I can't be denied. Because if you get to a point where every person you play for, it's so good, they go and tell people. And before you know it, millions of people are talking about you. And that's all it takes. And then somebody like ACL will come up to you and, you know, and say, hey, we want you to play on our TV show, or, you know, or we want your song in our film, or, you know. But playing clubs, I've played almost every club. I mean, I haven't played every club in town, but I've played a lot of clubs. I've played Stubbs, Saxon Pub, Continental Club, Cactus Cafe, you know, a lot of these places are open mics, you know.
Can you tell me a Stubbs story? What was it like? I saw you play at Stubbs.
Yeah, well,
what was it like playing at Stubbs?
Well, this is one of the people you meet, the people who rip artists off, okay? That's how I got involved. It's just this is typical across the board, the people you meet. Everybody is scamming to get whatever they can get, and they will use an artist in a heartbeat. I just got used for a big gig, but they paid me really well, you know? And, but they put me on that gig, this recent one, just because my name on their poster, this is what I believe, my name on their poster would just be a added cool element that would show that they understand grassroots and the little guy, and then make their thing, you know, good. And what it did was a person stood up and donated $1 million during this gig, and I take a little bit of credit for that, because not that he donated $1 million because of me, I had nothing to do with it as far as that goes, but as far as the recognition goes, as far as them promoting, everywhere they promoted the gig, everywhere, on radio, TV, you know, all this print media, and of course social media, everywhere was the same poster, and the only artist on the poster was my name. So, you know, and it wasn't because I'm this great artist, because I'm not a great artist yet, you know, but it was because I've gotten so well known of being on the trail and all that, you know. So, Stubbs, 2005, 2006, this guy came up to me and told me he was doing a benefit, and it just all seemed like a scam. And what happens, people do these benefits, like lots of nonprofits, they all, I'm a nonprofit, but people are getting paid big fucking money, man, to run these nonprofits. Big money, you know. Yeah, it's a nonprofit, but and it's like
they're still getting paid. They're still on the payroll.
Yes. The people who are running them are making shitloads of money. There's a ton of volunteers.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got interns and volunteers, but man, people are making money in every endeavor. And this guy wanted to do a fundraiser for something, you know, something to do with the trail or something. And I can't remember all the particulars. But he got the top people in town. I mean, Stephen Bruton, Dale Watson, you know, I mean, all the top people. And somehow I got on there. I don't even know why, but I was already kind of well known for the Woody's Point on the first version of Woody's Point at Auditorium Shores, and he got me on there. And so I didn't open, but I was a second. I think I played second, and there was already quite a few people there, but I was terrible. But it was really a good experience, you know.
Why were you terrible?
Because you know, I mean, it took me 10 years to say thank you when somebody said, damn, that was good, when I finished a song. And I'd always go, no, I suck. You know, I said that for 10 years. And finally, I started to say, man, you got to stop saying that. You got to say thank you. So I started saying thank you, even though I still kept thinking I suck, you know. And I mean, I've got video of, I did Miss Ann. It's terrible. You know, if I compare it to me doing the Miss Ann, I'll do Miss Ann later on this thing. And it's like, you know, it's all about nuance and dynamics, you know. I'm still not, I mean, you just heard now, that was pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. There's nuance and dynamics, all this, but it's still not, I mean, it can improve like light years, you know. And
what I notice about the way, there's a difference between the way you talk about your art and the way I experience your art.
Of course.
Of course. And what I hear you, it's you're real hard on yourself.
I know. That's the only way you get better.
Tell me about that.
It's like you and I love Mick and Keith, man. You know, because they're the pinnacle. I mean, there's people equally as good, but there's nobody really better. I mean, as far as their catalog goes, I mean, it's just fucking mind-blowing. And they'll be the first to tell you, Keith might not be, but those shit they're vessels. That shit just passes through you from the ether, you know? It's like the song I just played for you, you know, I just started playing something, and you do stuff, and you formulate, you do this, but basically the shit comes to you. And it just passes through you. You have no control over it. You don't know, because, I mean, I was thinking of somebody came up to me, you know, in the last few years and said, I went and saw Stevie Wonder. And I said, man, I love Stevie Wonder, but he hadn't written anything since fucking
30 years.
Yes. And it's like and I said, I bet he had 10, 12 people on the stage with him. And they said, yeah. And it's like, anybody, if you can do anything, you know, you could sit up there and just go, hi,
like Brian Wilson is doing now. He's got 30 people up on stage with him.
And
it's like,
yes.
You know, and they're brilliant, savant geniuses. They're the best hired hands.
Yeah. And so this guy got me on this gig, and it was the biggest thing I'd ever been on, you know.
Okay, so Monsieur Wood,
yes.
if you could, first thing on our outline, melodies in head from baby age, sang off key for 36 years, trumpet, drums, music column, girls and paychecks.
Okay, so I was cooking in Key West. It was 1992. It was March, it was the end of February, and two beautiful girls moved in next door, and we had a shared patio, concrete patio. We had a privacy fence around both of our apartments and a privacy fence around their apartment, and I was looking out my kitchen window over their privacy fence, and they were laying out in bikinis, and they were smoking hot. And I said, I got to go over and meet them, you know. So
how old were you?
How old was I? I was 36. And they were probably 20, 19. And I just went over immediately, you know, and struck up a conversation. Hey, I live next door, you know, and I was stew pot in South Pacific. I was at the Tennessee Williams, this huge theater. I was getting paid to be in a theater production. It was my first, And the only reason they hired me to do it is because I was cleaning pools with John Lee. I can't remember his last name.
So you were hired in a theater production as a what?
Stew pot. I was
what's a
an
stew
actor.
pot?
I was stew pot in South Pacific. That's yeah.
Shows you what I know.
I was saying that's a huge. That's you know.
Can you say that again? Can you just tell you were stew pot in a South Pacific production?
I was stew pot in South Pacific. South Pacific is like Oklahoma, you know, the American in Paris, you know, all these musicals, Singing in the Rain. Well, South Pacific is just as big. It's huge. Valley High. That's from South Pacific. And I was stew pot, and the song that I had a bunch of lines, but I sang, there is nothing like a dame. You know, and it was all of us in sailor outfits. Anyway, and they paid me. But it was only because John Lee had hired me to be his helper cleaning pools all over Key West. And
who's John Lee?
He was the guy who cleaned pools, but he was also an actor at the Red Barn Theater and all these different productions. And he was pretty good, and he had a history of being from a very successful band in Washington, D.C. And it's so convoluted, but I moved to Key West because I was cooking in Baltimore, Owings Mills, Maryland, and the girl, Suzanne, we lived together in Richmond, and then I said, look, I tried all these things. I couldn't unlock music for myself, and so I was opening clubs, and I was doing all these things. I wrote the music column, all these things I did. I said, but nothing's, you know, I also love to cook. So I better become a chef because I gotta make a living, and I can't unlock music. I kept trying, and so, you know, but I never stopped trying to unlock music. But I went up, and Suzanne said, well, I'll go with you, you know, because we were in love, blah, blah, blah.
You were in love, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, and so, well, I mean, you know, it's like, I've been in love a few times, but it was really infatuation with her because she gave me a blowjob every day without fail.
That's impressive.
Yeah, she loved to give me head, and I mean, I'd be taking a shower, and she'd fucking come in, and once we moved to Baltimore, she would just park the thing right over the water things and start. I mean, it was insane, man.
So Suzanne,
how many girls have you had to give you a blowjob every day?
That's very impressive.
Yes.
That's very impressive.
Yes.
Like,
you know, and we fucked all the time. I mean, but then, you know, we were pretty quickly we're fighting too. You know, we fought and we fucked. We fought and we fucked.
So you played stew pot in.
Well, let me finish. So, and always we went up there to learn how to cook. We were. I said, look, since you follow me, and I did it for 2 years or whatever, learned how to cook, or a year, I can't remember now. We were up there 89 or 88. We went up there 88, and then we left in 90. And I said, look, wherever you want to go, since you followed me, even though we were fighting, we broke up even, but we got back together, you know, in Owings Mill in Baltimore. And I said, wherever you want to go, where do you want to go? She said, I want to go to Key West. So I was looking at a gourmet magazine one day, and there was a restaurant called Louie's Backyard in Key West, and all these pictures, and it was like a really high-end fine dining. And I was cooking in a high-end fine dining, but not as high-end as this place. And I said, shit, that's where I want to cook. Since we're moving to Key West, I didn't know a fucking thing about Key West. And so we went to Key West, and she followed me to Baltimore, so we both went to Key West on her dime, on her instigation, and I started cooking there. And the funny thing was, in Louie's Backyard, there was a bunch of people from Richmond, which is where I'm from, Richmond. You know, that's where Suzanne and I met when we went to Baltimore. Then we went to Key West and all these. And one of the people was John Lee from Richmond. He'd been in a successful band in D.C., and so he'd gotten involved in theater when he got to Key West. And all these people running this theater, Red Barn Theater, well, they put on this production at the Tennessee Williams thing. And so John Lee, I was cleaning pools with him, and so he got me a gig in that. So these girls are laying out bikinis. I came over, and I said, hey, I'm Stew Pot in South Pacific, and that really flipped their wig, you know. And so we became friends, like really fast. And during the course of that week, March 5th, 1992, it was a Tuesday or a Thursday, I think, maybe a Friday. Andy, one of their boyfriends, we were all sitting around getting high. And Andy and I were sitting on the sofa, and he was a singer-songwriter. And he was really good, you know, as far as playing guitar goes. And I said, please, you know, I've tried all these things, and I've been around guitars. I wrote a music column for 5 years, man. I toured through Europe with NXS, Waterboys, Simply Red, Simple Minds, you know, all these fucking bands as a journalist, yeah. All this stuff. I did all these things. You know, I toured to the East Coast with Pretenders, Adam and the Ants, you know, and as a journalist. And I said, please teach me some chords. So he shoved an acoustic guitar in my hands, you know, and taught me 5 chords an hour. And I've given thousands of guitar lessons. I never been able to teach a beginner 5 chords an hour. So that showed me right there. Not that I had aptitude, because I sucked, but desire and the fire in the belly, which is what you need in order to become a great fucking artist, right? You need to sustain fire in the belly your whole life. And I've sustained it for almost 28 years now, right? So we sat there and played for an hour or two, and he could see something weird was going on, you know, because I was picking it up really quick. So he lent me his fucking guitar, and I went back next door to my apartment, you know, and I played. And I had the night off. I was cooking. I was already, you know, I'd weaned myself where I was cooking 5, 6, 7 days a week back to like I'd become a pastry chef, and I had my own thing, and I was doing 3, 4 shifts a week, you know, getting paid the same thing. And because I hated cooking, because it was a nightmare. It's like, you know, you're not, even though you're cooking the fine dining, still chits are coming out of the computer and you're slinging hash. And everybody's unhappy. And I went out with the best looking 2 waitresses in the whole place. They were smoking hot. Both of them 22. And I was 36. And, you know, but everybody in the kitchen was miserable, man. And that's the way every restaurant I've been in, most of the time, they're all miserable because they're underpaid. It's the hardest work there is. You spend half your time cleaning or prepping, not cooking. And it's hard fucking work, and you don't get paid shit. And everybody dreams, so wants to be a chef. They think they're going to go and have the white coat on, walking through the dining room talking to all the girls. And only one person gets to do that. You know, everybody else has got to put their nose to the grindstone. So anytime somebody comes up to me and said, hey, I want to be a chef, well, I said, look, don't do it unless you have to do it. And that's true of everything. If you want to be a plumber or electrician, a director, an actor, or whatever, don't do it unless you have to do it. It's in your blood, man. And that's why I kept trying to unlock music, because it was in my blood and I just had to do it.
Okay, hold there for just a second, sir. Because we just play for me.
Hello, 1, 2.
Okay, continue. Hottest girls chef.
So I went over. He lent me his guitar, and I went home, and I just kept playing. And I had the night off, and I played all night. And that was like 4, 5, 6 p.m. when he taught me the chords. And then I played for hours, and my fingers were killing me. And I would just stop playing and rub them, you know, and then start playing again. And I was so, because it was like, it was immediate. When he taught me the first chord, a D major, I knew right there, when I strummed that fucking thing, the vibration went into my body, it was like everything unlocked. It was like every fucking cliche you think of. The clouds parted, the lightning bolt. It was like the tool, I finally found the tool to unlock the music, to the melodies in my head, and all the shit. The love that I had for music was greater than any love I've ever had. You know, I love women, and I've been madly in love, but music tops everything. Always has. You know, it's like sometimes it's like this. You know, it's like I love the woman just as much, but the music is always there, and you never fight with the music. You know, and I fight because I'm headstrong. It's like I don't like to play Trivial Pursuit, or I don't like to fucking, you know, I want to do what and the beauty of it is, 92, not only did I discover this, but I changed my whole life, because from that point on, March 5th, 1992, I've done what I want. You know, I still worked a day job for 12 years when I moved to Austin and all that. But it's like I've been every day when my head lifts off the pillow, even for the 12 years when I was still putting out records every year, and it was all about music constantly. And it's like, and from that point on, I've known what I'm doing every day. And so there's a joy in that you just can't find unless you find what it is you put on earth to do. And I knew what it was when I was a baby, but it took fucking 36 years. And, you know, so I played, and right before midnight, I wrote my first song. And because D major was the first, and it's funny because G is, I mean, I could write 10 songs in G right now in the next 30 minutes if I wanted to. You know, and I'm not saying they'd be good songs, but it just is, I've got this natural thing for me, you know. And, but for some reason, I was finger picking D, and I was finger picking terrible, but I was finger picking the first fucking day, you know. And I tell people when they're learning guitar, do everything. Use a pick, use your fingers, you know, finger pick, pluck, strum, do it all. But if you don't have anything between you and the strings, it's just your skin and the strings, that's the best way. If you can get there's optimal sounds with the pick that are better and all these things, and flat picking is really amazing, and it's the hardest thing to do. But if you can do it all, you'd be more well-rounded. But if you're going to feel it more if you have just finger to. And so I wrote this song called Nickel, and it was like between the 4 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever, when he taught me the 5 chords, and the 6, 7 hours later, all of a sudden I wrote my first song. That was like, and so I immediately knew I had to quit cooking. I mean, right then I just knew. And John Lee was, I was cleaning pools with John Lee, and Rocco is he's one of my best friends, and we don't even talk, because he's kind of an isolationist, I'll put it that way. He's the greatest. He's like you. He's like, you would love Rocco. You would get along so well with Rocco, and he'd be your best friend. Mm. He's a big motherfucker. He's handsome. He's you know, he loves music more than anything, and he's always never had a problem with women. You know, and he's always had good-looking women. Anyway, he was going through a divorce, and I said, look, come to Key West, you can stay with me. And so he came to Key West. Well, he had gotten off, and he'd become a manager of a cab company. And so I said, Rock, get me I've discovered music, and, you know, I've unlocked it now, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, he got me a job driving a cab. And the reason was every other cab driver was like, ex-Vietnam vet, where are you going? And I was like, hey, I'm Woody Wood, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm moving to Austin, you know, where do you want to go? So every single fare, I got 50 fares a day. Every fare gave me $2, $3, $5 extra over the thing because I was so nice. The same thing, the reason I'm so successful, popular, or whatever the fuck it is down at Woody's Point, same exact thing in the cab. And it was the first time, see, as a bartender, I was a really successful bartender because of my personality. And that was the first thing of all even though I had jobs where I was a surveyor, where people liked me and wanted to work with me because I was a hard worker, the bartending was the first time where my personality, I actually said, oh, you know, my personality is making me money. And then the cab took that up a notch. And then singer-songwriter is gone through the roof, but not making the money. Not so in the artist, because all artists, if you don't have this personality, you're not a good fucking performer. You know, it's simple, whether you're an actor or, you know, whatever. So I wrote that first song, and then I started driving a cab. I quit cooking, saved up my money. I was trying to decide where to move. I was writing songs like a motherfucker. I got my first guitar a week later. Andy went to a store, bought $100. And it's like, that's something that people don't know, And I'm constantly, people are always coming to me for guitar lessons. I don't give guitar lessons anymore. I charge $100 an hour. I charge $25 an hour, and I gave a bunch, but everybody the guitar ended up in the closet. So that's very frustrating to teach somebody how to work a camera and then they never do anything with it. So I said, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. So I started charging $50 an hour, and I told you the story. Well, since that time, I haven't given guitar lessons anymore, except every once in a while somebody will sit down with me at Woody's Point and I'll give them a quick guitar lesson. I just tell them, look, I'll give you a 5-minute guitar lesson, and they'll give me a $5 bill or something, you know, or nothing, you know, whatever. But because I want more art in the world, because the world needs more love and art. And it's like, you know, art is fucking beautiful, and love is the most beautiful thing. I don't need that. So I'm driving a cab, and I was trying to decide where to move. I'd saved up this money, and I was watching Johnny Carson one night, and Ann Richards, the governor of Texas, came on, and she had an 8-minute segment, and every politician that goes on whatever fucking show talks about politics or talks about themselves. All Ann talked about was the Austin music scene. I was fucking mind blown. I just knew a little bit about Ann, you know, and I didn't know anything about Austin, even though I'd passed through here when I hitchhiked cross country 12 times back in the 70s and 80s. And but I didn't know anything about it, really. And all she did, so I pointed at the TV because I was trying to decide where to move, you know, New York, LA, Nashville. I said, fuck it, I'm going to Austin. Any place where the governor of the whole fucking state talks about music, that's got to be. And then I immediately started reading about Austin. And then once you notice something about Austin, all of a sudden you start seeing all the shit in media, people talking about Austin. And it was the hot place to go in 1992, you know. So
that's when I came here.
You know?
Yeah.
And in 1994, I moved here, you know, from March 5th of 1992 to July of 94. And I shaved my head on the way in New Orleans, and I got here in July, and I was 30. I turned 38 shortly after I got here. And, you know, well, I started playing 6 to 8 open mics a week. Immediately.
Where?
I played everywhere. I played Saxon Pub. I played Cactus Cafe. On Mondays, I played a place called Chicago House. But on Mondays, one thing I neglected to tell you was in Key West, after I discovered the guitar and I'm just woodshedding, I'm driving a cab 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's why I made so much money. 6 days a week at first. I was burnt crisp, and then I went back to 5 days a week, and then I started taking days off. And then some days you go to work and you drive for an hour just to make your money to pay for the cab and go home because you're so burnt. But we started playing music, and I mean, I'm so proactive. We started busking right away, and then I got us a gig at the Red Barn Theater. They had a thing called, they did it every year, where they had scenes from different plays. It was like a best of the year. Each year they did one, and I was working in the theater, building sets and painting, and you know, working lights, doing all kind of shit in the theater. I was doing all kinds of things: pools, driving a cab, fucking working in the theater, playing music nonstop. Immediately started playing open mics. I got an Austin Chronicle, which is a free magazine here, newspaper, and found out on Monday nights there was 2 open mics. One was at the Saxon Pub and one was at the Cactus Cafe, and those were the 2 best open mics in town other than the Chicago House. And we rode bicycles everywhere. Didn't have a car.
Rolling?
So we got on our bicycles and rode to Saxon Pub, and all open mics, as I said, are 7 to 11, 7 to midnight, whatever. So we would sign up for the late slot at Saxon Pub. We'd get there like 6:45, sign up for the 10 or 11 slot, and then get on our bicycles and ride all the way to Cactus Cafe, which is a heck of a ride, hills and all that, and get there at, you know, whatever. We would sign up for the earliest slot. I can't remember exactly how we did it, but what we do is we sign up for the late slot at Saxon and get to Cactus Cafe and sign up for the first slot. So whatever time that was, we did that. And we would play. And of course at open mics, respectfully, you hang out a little bit and listen to people after you and before you. Otherwise, you're an asshole. And so we would do that. And of course, you meet shitloads of people. And we were just new to Austin, so we're meeting all these fucking people. Every open mic, I met 50 people. Because they're very popular to this day. All open mics are filled, you know. Shouldn't say all of them now because I don't know exactly what it is. I've been to open mics. And we play Chicago House on Wednesdays. Anyway, Monday through Thursday we played. There's usually not open mics on Friday. I'd already put out 2 cassettes. I put out one in 92 and one in 93. Might have put out 2 in 93. And then in 94 we did the first official one here. And I kept saying I want to be music. And so I called us Zeke. Z-E-K-E. And we put out, and all the open mics, that's what we went as, Zeke. You know, because in the back of my mind I wanted to be solo, you know, my name. And my given name was Michael Gregory Woodall, and everybody called me Woody Woodall. So I took all off and became, at first, Woody Michaels, and I didn't like that, and then I became Woody Wood, and I took the Y and turned it into an E, so that's how I became Woody Wood, and I've been Woody Wood for, 28 years, basically. I lied about that, I embellished, it really wasn't. Anyway, I've been Woody Wood so long, now when people say, what's your real name? I said, it's Woody Wood, bitch.
And then you slap him around.
Yeah, I don't like that. I get that question once. If it's a little kid, I'm all cool, Yeah. But if it's a grown up, what's your real name? It's like, yeah. It's like, bitch, do you ask Elton John that? David Bowie, fucking Cary Grant, Marilyn Monroe, motherfucker. It's like, so we play all these open mics, and we met so many people, and we had a 4-track. I was putting out records, even in Key West. And I put together a 4-piece band, and we had a rehearsal space, and we played gigs, and we gigged all over for about a year and a half. But they were no good. I mean, compared to the people I just dream about playing with, and I didn't want to play with anybody that I couldn't just play a song and let them play, because that's what I do on all my records. I say, man, just play, and then I'll tell you what to change or tweak if I don't like it. But I want you to be a contributor. I don't want to dictate what you fucking play, and that's the way most of the people do it. From Mick and Keith to fucking David Bowie or whoever, they get the best people, and then they say, look, here's the song, and they say, I've got a feeling, but play, because you might negate some amazing shit if you start dictating before they fucking play. Just let them hear the song and then put their thing on it, and then you can tweak shit. And that's the way I've done it. And I didn't know how other people did it, but since that time I've read all these biographies and all these magazines and constantly reading. And I read Tape Op. Tape Op is a magazine that I've turned thousands of people onto. If you don't read Tape Op, you should, because even though it says tape operators, back to 2-inch, it's all these stories in studios and about writing songs and about artists. And it's amazing all the shit that you learn, not just about technical shit, but about how things are created, how albums were created. All these records we were just talking about, the Stones. There's all these things, Glenn Johnson, all these people, Jimmy Miller, all these people who played drums on all the fucking, Jimmy Miller is instrumental in Stones, man. And it's like, you read, and do you even know what Tape Op is?
Yeah. Blah, blah.
It's amazing, it's like, I skip over the products in the second half, and I don't even read the letters anymore, because it's all like, Tape Op, you're incredible, and it's like, fuck that. Or it's they talking about how this fucking road, it sucks compared to this Hawaii or whatever.
Yeah,
anyway, but I still read all the articles and if they're not talking, if they're just talking all tech shit, then I just get bored. But most of the time, every single one. So we put out Zeke, and then I disbanded the band because I was no good, and I was not I couldn't get the great players because they're not going to play with somebody who's not any good. You know, I didn't know how to write, sing, play, or anything, you know, even though I was doing it. And I just kept doing it. So I said, you know, finally, after that, I was starting to get good enough. I'm going to start playing some open mics again, solo. Because my whole thing was I wanted to get good enough to play solo. So I was woodshedding and stuff, and then a bunch of things happened. And then my father passed away in 2002. First, 9/11 happened, and then my father passed away the next year. And it was like that was the final catalyst. It was like, you know what? You're never going to be what you say you are unless you're doing it. So I said I've woodshedded enough, and I started playing open mics. And then in 2004, September 2nd, I went down and I played on the north side of the river on the east side in a very unpopulated part of the trail. I played for an hour at lunchtime, like noon, and 100 people went by in an hour, which is it's 300 people every 15 minutes on a busy day, where I'm at. 100 people in 1 hour. One person spit at me. Nobody smiled. I got a half grin, but I was hooked because I went from woodshedding all those years and playing an occasional open mic to playing for 100 people, you know, and it was just eye-opening. And so I played a bunch of places on the north side, and then I got further and further close to the Four Seasons Hotel, and then one day I went on the other side of the river, and there were these Runtex igloos full of water right there at Auditorium Shores. And I said, you know what? All the runners are stopping there to get water. But my philosophy has always been, I'm never going to set up right next to the thing. I set up a way so people can pass by through my music and hear it, but not have to hear it if they stop. That's always been my thing, because people, when I first went up to Woody's Point, they said, you should set up in the gazebo or by the water. I said, no, bitch. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Don't tell me what to fucking do.
So, redo that. You just say that again, just without the profane, because it's a great, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
people tell you that.
People always telling me, you know, every day somebody goes, you know what you should do? And I go, no, I'm doing what I do. The whole reason I started writing songs and all this is because I was able to do something that I didn't have to collaborate. Because everything you do in your whole life, you are at the forces of nature. You have to collaborate on everything you do, you know. And the reason I was so excited that first day that Andy put that guitar in my hands and I wrote a song right at midnight was I played all that and then I wrote a song by myself, and it was my sink or swim, you know, and it was like, my art. And so all this time, I've got all these collaborators who play on my records, but I've never written a song with anybody else, you know, because I want it to sink or swim, because that's the meaning for me. That's the whole point, is that everything is, you know.
It comes from you.
Yes, and it's like, you know, that's why I like cooking so much, you know. And I still love cooking, but I don't like cooking professionally, because I like to cook when I want to cook, and I don't want to cook every fucking day, you know, or every fucking whatever. Anyway, so people would say, hey, you should set up, well, you should go set up by Stevie Ray Vaughan statue when I was down there. And I said, no, I'm sitting here, because this is what I want to do, because people can pass through my music but not have to hear it where they stop. So I did that, and that just, it took off right. Once I hit the igloos, which was, that was September 2nd, 2004, and then I did that sporadically, and then right around Christmas, I found those igloos. I didn't find they were there, but I put two and two together.
I discovered the igloos.
Yeah, and I set up on that little stone wall, I don't know, 100 feet from the igloos. And people would stop at the igloos, and then they'd have a cup of water, and then they'd come back over to me and stop and talk. And it right away, it's like that was around Christmas, bam, from that day. And then in 2005, all of a sudden, I just started noticing all the TV cameras and crews would come down to get shots of downtown and talk to people about the weather. So I was on TV like 5, 6 times right away in 2005 because some camera crew needed B-roll, and he'd come up and talk to me and say, hey, what do you think of this fucking cloudy weather? Well, that was great in the beginning, and then I realized I don't want to be on TV all the time unless they're asking me about duet, you know? But one of these times, these camera crews, there's a whole bunch of crews, and then they pull this dais out of the truck and set it down right in front of me. And then fucking all these reporters, everybody came, and all of a sudden here comes Will Wynn, the mayor. And he's right there in front of me. You know, because I was sitting on the rock under the tree. It was my spot. Everybody knew it was Woody's spot, you know. But he sat there and gave a press conference. And when he finished, he came over and talked to me. Or I said something to him. He came over and talked to me. He was nice to me. And so that put a thing in my head. And I don't know, a week later, a day later, a month later, I said, you know what? I was sitting there playing. I'm going to go over to the mayor's office and talk to him. I can't remember why I was going to go. And the receptionist was right here. And I said, thank you, and turned around. And then I pushed the button. And it was very awkward because I'm standing with my back to her waiting for the elevator, you know, after I'd asked her this question. And then all of a sudden she said, Woody, come back. And I came back over and she said, you know what? And she wrote down a number and told me to call this number. And I called the number and they made a Woody Wood Day in Austin. And I played in front of city council. It was like 200 people, the whole city council and the mayor. And the mayor came up, there was TV camp crew, everything. All because I went over to, and it was apparently, they do it, I don't know if they do it every city council meeting, but just about. They just give any fucking buddy. It's completely worthless, emptyless award. And they've given me 2. That'll make a good sound.
Completely worthless. How many did they give me? 2.
Oh, but anyway, so that was very kind of her to do that. But what happened was before I played my song, Will comes over and he holds up my CD and said, this is Woody Wood, it's Woody Wood Day. And also they give me a proclamation and I'm on TV and all this stuff. And then I sang my song, and that was 2005. That was probably duet. Probably I sang duet. And then Will ended up booking me in like 9 different events. I played one of his campaign fundraising at the bar that's behind Huts. Huts just closed. You know Huts? Well, there was a pizza place that's been there longer than Huts, and it's still there. He had a big shindig there. It was hundreds of people, and I played that, and I just wandered through the crowd. You know, I was on CD Baby and Sonic Bids, which I'm still on, both of them. And Sonic Bids post all these gigs, some for money and some for free. And I didn't know a thing about it, and I haven't booked anything since because I don't need to. I just do my thing now. Because anytime you book anything through anything, it's just a hassle, and it's usually somebody else making some of your money. But I booked a little coffee shop, like the one we just went to, Vox Pop in Brooklyn, New York. It's in New York City, in Brooklyn, on Cortell U Road. I ended up playing there twice, 2 different years. And I booked a friend of one of my regulars, knew the guy who booked the Barking Spider one, so I booked that, and I knew I was going to play Richmond, Virginia, a bunch of different places because that's where I'm from, and I got all kind of friends there. So I had those 3 things to kind of anchor the tour, you know, which were 3 different places. You know, Richmond, New York City, and Cleveland, and which they're spaced out. So then I picked where I wanted to go in between those places, just on the map. And then I started thinking, how can I do that? And I said, well, shit, and I want to go to Nashville for sure. So I ended up playing 2 places in Nashville. The Bluebird Cafe, which is the biggest singer-songwriter place in the world. It's where, I mean, everybody from Garth Brooks and Shania Twain, you know, Vince Gill, I mean, you name it, people played there solo acoustic. It's a really small venue. And I got to play there. I played the Blue Bar there. And then I just played and connect the dots. And I was able to play places that I just had no idea I'd be able to play, you know. And I played on street corners mostly, but I played a lot of venues. I mean, I would just pull over and just play, you know. Because what I want to do, any tour I do, I'm going to play a venue if I get some really good deal where I get money and I don't have to just play for some scam artist. But mainly I just want to take the Woody's Point experience everywhere, you know. I want to play on street corners and, you know, in the middle of the street, any fucking where, and, you know, talk to strangers and ask them if I can play them a song, you know. So the tour, I had this 95 Chevy Cavalier. I booked a restaurant. One of my regulars owns a restaurant, Texarkana, I think, Texas, yeah. And so when I left here, the first place before I was going to stop anywhere was Texarkana, but I ended up stopping, I think, in College Station and some other places along the way and just played on street corners. And from there, I went to Memphis and I did a bunch of shit in Memphis. I didn't play any venues, but I played street corners and stuff like that. But the main thing for me is I've read Last Train to Memphis, which is Elvis's early life before the drugs. He would walk through Memphis and he had his acoustic guitar. He didn't have a gig bag or anything. He had an old beat up guitar. He would just sling just the way I came out of the store the other day with that new guitar. He'd sling it up on his thing and hold in the neck and just walk around and then pull it down and play for somebody, you know, when he was a teenager. And he did that for years, and he was driving a fucking truck. I mean, he was like dirt poor. Yeah. This is a killer book. I recommend this book to any singer-songwriter anywhere, and I've recommended it at least 1,000 times because it tells a story of someone who knows they have music in them and knows they want to be a singer-songwriter or a singer, musician. He didn't write. And there's a few people in my life that mean as much to me as the singer-songwriters who never wrote. You know, Barbra Streisand, Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, Elvis Presley. So, I was in Memphis, and I went to this place where he'd grown up in these, they moved from Tupelo in a little tiny shotgun shack, the poorest house you could possibly imagine. And they moved in these apartment complexes. And I just went at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and just hung out. There was nobody anywhere. And I hung out right in front of this thing. And there was a little green with little sidewalks that they preserved to where it's exactly the way it was in 1953, you know, or even before that. And I just stood there and I just absorbed it, you know. That meant as much to me as just about anything on the whole tour, you know. And I went to a bunch of places. Of course, I went to Sun Studios and all, you know, all the iconic things. And this is an iconic thing on the tourist thing, but you know, I've been to Memphis a few times and I always go to this place and I never see anybody there because there's nothing to look at, you know. So it's an apartment complex plucked out of the 50s and it's still preserved, you know. I mean, there's clothesline poles with no clotheslines and nobody's staying there. It's a historic site. I think it is. I mean, I know it is.
How did it feel to stand there?
It just felt, it's magnetic. It was, you know, I mean, there was the energy there. And I'm not a Elvis nut. I mean, I love his music, you know, but Mystery Train, his first thing is the thing. You know, that is up there with every song, you know, Imagine by John Lennon or you name it. That song is up there with all of Mystery Train. And it's just him on acoustic guitar, you know, I mean, he's just amazing on it. And, you know, and I love a lot of his stuff. But I mean, Suspicious Minds, and he did stuff right up till he died. It was good, you know. He knew. He was kind of a Michael Jackson type dude, man. He could fucking sit in a studio and knew exactly what he wanted. And that's something that you just never grasp completely, you know. That's such a big part of music, is knowing how to convey what you want in a studio to tell musicians, you know, exactly what you want. Even after you listen to an incredible take, you know it could be better in a certain way. You need to, you know, it's hard to fucking articulate that shit. And that's why I interned to Bismo, is to just watch the top people and listen to how they spoke to each other about what they're doing, you know. Even when because they're always kidding and laughing around, and there's always subtext, and there's always, you know, slang and jargon that you don't fucking understand, you know, when you're first. And I absorbed all that for a year and a half, and I've been around it ever since. And you know, and anytime you're able to talk to a pro, you try to talk to them in a way that they can understand that you understand, you know. And you learn anytime you're around a pro. This is me talking. I just try to learn something, you know, because they all know so much. And if you cannot annoy them, you know, by being a fan or whatever, you can really pick up some key shit. And just a little thing can unlock shit for you. That's why I read so much, you know. I read constantly, and it's one sentence out of a whole fucking article will be like mind-blowing and open your mind to something that's like, wow. And all of a sudden you're able to write a song better, or play something better, or you just absorb things. And like you'll be playing, and all of a sudden you go, you know what, I'm playing too loud. You know, for years I didn't know. I just played, and now I have this thing live at Woody's Point, and people constantly come up to me, let me play you a song. And I said, no, I never ever do it when somebody asks me. You know, because it's my stage, it's my living room. And if you don't go into somebody, you would never go to Willie Nelson's up on his stage, you know, when they're getting ready to play and say, hey, I'm going to play a song. You would never do that, you know, or with any pro. And I'm a pro. And it's like I'm down there at Woody's Point, that's my living room. And so, but anytime somebody, you know, I find out in our conversation, well, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a singer, and we talk and there's a love vibe going on, I always say, well, look, perform for me, you know. It's got to be an original, it's got to be short and sweet. I will videotape it, but the caveat is, if I don't like it, or I think it'll embarrass you later on, I'm not going to fucking post it, you know. And that happens every day, the possibility. But I guess I've videotaped somebody once a week, something like that. But and I've got, I don't know how many people. I've got John D. Graham, I've got Guy Forsyth, I got a lot of pros here, but I've also got a ton of amateurs, you know, who've never had a video done of them, you know, and some of them are good, and some of them, I haven't, even of the pros, I haven't recorded anybody else that was great yet, you know, but I say that about myself too, you know, I haven't recorded a great song, I haven't written a great song, but it's like, it's just interesting to be able to do that. And so
back to the tour.
Yeah, I was in Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
and so I left Memphis after doing all these different things, and I went to Nashville. And Nashville is really an incredible town. When I moved to Austin in '94, everybody here badmouthed Nashville, all the Austin musicians, because at the time Nashville was really corporate country, and I can understand now, looking back, how it was. But there was still some great country there. You know, I mean, Dwight Yoakam, there was all kind of cool shit going on. Just had to know. But they badmouth people because they got people here. There are a few people I could name, but I'm not gonna, who really badmouth Nashville. And now some of them are living there, which is really funny. But the first time I went to Nashville was before this. I went through on a bus one time. But I've loved it every time I've gone. It's spread out. It's flat with small hills. And there's a river. But it's like music everywhere. I mean, Austin's music everywhere too. But I think Nashville is... I mean, if I had the money, I would go to Nashville. I've created a niche for myself here that I make money, and I don't have that not in Nashville. But I got to Nashville, And this time was just magical for me. I went in Ryman Auditorium and just stood there and absorbed the energy, which I'd never done before. And I knew the Bluebird Cafe was the quintessential place to play acoustic music in the world. I mean, it's world renowned. There's no other place that's a small cafe that has more lineage.
A stronger lineage?
Yeah, no other place.
Can you say that from the
There's
top?
no other place that has a stronger lineage than the Bluebird Cafe for solo acoustic, you know. And I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show Nashville, but they captured it. And it's one of the, if you're an acoustic musician, you should watch Nashville. The first 4 or 5 seasons are unbelievable. The first season is unbelievable. And they're always, not every episode, but at least one episode a season, they go into the Bluebird Cafe and they perform. You know, some artists, and this, it's all fictitious, but they're all great players, and they're using Nashville players. They're all the real Vince Gill and all these people populate this show as cameos, but they're playing music. And so I knew I wanted to go to the Bluebird Cafe, and this was before Nashville. This is 2007, and so when it came, Nashville just that's an amazing show. If you like acoustic music, it's not about country. It's just about acoustic and voices and original writing. But I knew I wanted to, and I didn't know where it was. And it's way out west, I want to say. And you just drive, and it's basically flat. And there's like this long running road. I can't think of the name of the road now. It goes all the way out, and it's this little fucking shopping center, you know, 1-story shopping center. And there's the Bluebird Cafe in it, and I found it, you know, and I pulled in, and I may be getting my facts wrong, but either it was already a line, or they told me to come back at a certain time, and I came back at a certain time, and there was a line, like a lot, 50 people, all of them with a gig bag guitar, you know, and there were couples too, you know, because there are a lot of singers, and I went up, and somehow, I don't know how, but they said it's a lottery every time, and I think it was Wednesdays. It was either Mondays or Wednesdays. They have this every week, and it's like everybody from all over the world wants to play there, you know, for this. It's kind of like an open mic this one day of the week, but it's a lottery. I mean, they only allow 25 or 50 people. I think it might be 25. Somehow I got in the line, because I'd just driven up, you know, from fucking Austin. And somehow somebody in that line took pity on me, because I told them I was on my first tour, and, you know, I gave them my whole thing. And they gave me their number, and I ended up being one of the selected ones. And I performed duet. I think I might have done 2 songs. I don't know. I don't think you do 2 songs, but I think I did. Anyway, they videotape it, and supposedly it's on a thing, but I've never been able to see it. Supposedly they have all the performances all over the years in one spot on the website, but I've tried years ago to find it, I could never find it. But I didn't feel good about my performance at all, but it was packed, you know, and everybody is a singer-songwriter. So you critical eyes, you know, but they're all gracious, because everybody feels about Bluebird Cafe the same way you do. You know, it's hallowed ground. I mean, a lot of people started their careers there. You know, they got their first big break by being, and to play a gig there on a Friday or Saturday night, it's like, it's the pinnacle. I mean, you know, that pays really, I don't know how well it pays, but it pays better than just about anywhere here. And, you know, I mean, the top people, whoever I don't know who you like in the folk or country, Appalachian, you know, pedigree, but they play there. And so I played, and it was just a really major experience. And it was like the beginning of my tour. And I was like, wow. And then I visited my mother in an assisted living facility in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I stayed there for a day or two, drove her crazy. It's like, I'm not even going to go into that. She was 80 something. And she's passed now. She passed in 80 when she was 89 in 2012. And then I drove to Richmond. And I would stop and play on a street corner or whatever. But in Richmond, I know so many people. I lived there from 59 to 87. I played a Jewish school for kids. You know, I played for, I don't know, 50, 75 kids in this big room. I played for people who, a very interesting thing about my life is that I was all these things up until I was 36. You know, wrote the music column, I was a bartender, manager, a bus boy, dishwasher, waiter, bartender, land surveyor, you know, everything you think of, any menial job. I mean, I worked for 3 months one time opening letters, you know, I mean in a bank. I did all kind of stupid shit. But the main thing I tell people is I was a land surveyor, and I wrote that music column, and I sold advertising. But I lost my train of thought.
You sold advertising?
Well, for this magazine.
Oh.
I came on board. That's a whole.
That's
we're going to have to get into, but not right here because this. So I did all these things up until I was 36, and I have all these friends to this day, people who are as close as you in Richmond, Virginia. I've lost touch with some of them, but only because like a couple of them I think voted for Trump, and this kind of put a wedge between us. But they're still just as important to me as the day when I was living in Richmond. And I could go back to Richmond and there's 15 people who I feel as strongly about as I feel about you. You know, they're that powerful in my life. Anyway, Deborah in 79 came, Yunch, his name Dutch, Little Bear was his dog, Barja, and Yunch is little something, Little John I guess. And so I called him Yunch, and I spelled it Y-U-N-C-H, and it's J-A-N-T-Z-E, you know. And it's like, and he always loved that. But I've continued to spell it that way because he loved it, that I was so crude and crass or whatever, backwoods. And but he let me stay at his house, and he threw a party, you know, for my tour. And Deborah and 79 came, and they sat down on this picnic table. During the course of the party, people were partying and all a bunch, and I just cornered them and got them just isolated. And I sang duet to them. And they had never acknowledged, you know, said anything. They were both completely blown away. It was like, it was maybe as good a performance as I've ever done because of the reaction, you know. It's like when you were talking to me yesterday about my music, equally, that's what artists feed on. It's like you take all this adversity and doors slammed in your face and no, 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 and then you feed on love, and that sustains you, you know, anytime somebody, and so that was just huge for me, you know, because it was just, I was expecting them not to like it, you know, because they had never, I'm giving them every cassette I put out, and you know, everything, CDs, you know, and nothing. You know, nobody ever said, damn, that's really good, Woody. You know, they didn't even like calling me Woody. Anyway, you know, I played duet for them. They go, you know, essentially they were going, what the fuck happened? You're fucking good, you know. So that was the reaction. So that was huge. You know, I got up and played, and I wasn't getting the reaction I wanted, so I just got off the stage and walked down into the people. And so many singer-songwriters have told me, Woody, I can't do that. I've got to have the PA, and I've got to have the amplification, because I'm too shy to do that. You know, I'm fine if I'm up here on stage and I got all the amplification, but that's something, that's a gift I have that I'm just really proud of, that I'm able to, I could grab a guitar and just walk out there and walk up to the first stranger and say, hey, you want to hear a song? And that's hard to do. I couldn't do that when I started. You know, now I can do it. But it's still, I'm still shy. Nobody believes that. I'm still shy, but I just always take a step forward instead of a step back. another one of my. I got all these Woodyisms that I say. That's, you know, that's one of the many. It's like music is everything. You know, fame is nothing. Music is everything, and take a step forward, not a step back. That's those two things I say over and over and over. I post them on Facebook and Instagram and all these things. Anyway, but he was astounded. This guy said, "Damn, I can't do that, Woody." You know, he was blown away by the fact that I went out, because I walked right up to the prettiest girl. There were some amazingly beautiful New York City girls in this coffee shop. You know, all of them, they were with boyfriends or they were with another girlfriend. And I just walked straight up to them and said, you know, and I've met all of them. By the time I left that night, so like 11 p.m., I knew everybody's name, first name in the whole place. And it was 50 people, very short. And we drove home, and as we got to my place, and I lived in this little conch house. That's it. And Crystal Lee Ellen did that. And she did that wood carving. That's the back of the house. This is the front of the house. And that's going to be one of my next records called Conch House. That's going to be the cover. That's going to be the back. And the song title is going to be on it for me. So I got a lot of fucking, I don't know how we got on that tip, but I got a lot of songs out of all that.
Which ones?
Well, that's how we got to it. So I left Queens, the Vox Pop, and went to Brattleboro, Vermont, because both of these girls went to Burlington, University of Vermont in Burlington, but both of them at one time stayed in Brattleboro, Vermont. So after I left Queens, I said, I'm going to Brattleboro, Vermont. I stopped in Albany on the way and played in the park and played a bunch of street corners and stuff. And then I went to Brattleboro, Vermont. And Brattleboro, Vermont is a little tiny college town in Vermont. And I don't know if you've ever been to Vermont, but it's beautiful. So then I started driving, and I drove out in the sort of the edge of Erie, and I drove down this road, and all of a sudden there was a fucking trail. There was water, and there was a trail, and the trail just went on and on and on. I was driving, and there was a trail on my right side, and I said, fuck it. I pulled in and stopped, sat on the edge of my car, and the trail was right there, and I had a Woody's Point experience in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I stayed there for at least an hour and played, and people would, it wasn't as busy, but it wasn't a perfect day either. You know, it was
in the big thing.
Erie is right on the edge of the Great Lakes, and then you go south to Cleveland, and that's the Great Lakes. So I played this thing, and then as I was driving back, and one thing I neglected to tell you is that I wrote a song called Blue to Me somewhere at the beginning of the tour. I don't remember where. I probably wrote it in several places, you know, but the gist of it, the bulk of it came out in one spot. And after I wrote it, everywhere I would go on tour, I played. But I hadn't written it because I didn't play it at Bluebird Cafe. So that was basically the beginning of it. So I hadn't written it then, but I'm pretty sure I must have written it by Vox Pop, or maybe, at any rate, I shot scenes out the windshield of my car all over, and that became my Blue to Me video, and it's to this day it's one of my favorite videos I've got. You know, it just shows, and one of the scenes in that is after I packed up and left Erie, this trail, and was driving the trail back up this thing, there was a fucking Ferris wheel through the trees, lit up, and it had become night, or it was twilight, and I fucking got a shot at it, and that's one of those scenes. And then I've got all cornfields and all this stuff. And then I got to Cleveland, and Cleveland was huge. It was the best stop on the, other than Nashville. You know, New York was good too, but I went there and we talked and all this stuff, and I was going to play at like 8 or 9 p.m. and this was like 4 p.m. And he got on the phone and called up this student DJ in this radio station. He said, look, I got this artist, he's on tour, he's from Austin, you know, all the things that normal people do on tour. And they said, put him on the radio. She said, send him over. And I came over and I played 5, 6, 7 songs on the radio. She interviewed me just like this. I gave her a bunch of these stories, you know. It was thrilling because it was the first time I'd been on tour. It's the first time I'd get doing a radio show on tour. So I played there, and I played a bunch of places and shot a lot of videos, and I had Blue to Me by now. I played Blue to Me on the radio show, I played it at the concert, and I played at Barking Spider, and I played a bunch of places all over campus, and I went to the so many things happened in Cleveland. I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? And I was so excited. It was like Cleveland was everything. And I went to a ball game. I mean, I did the Cleveland Indians Major League team. I did all these things. And I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Never been to Cleveland, you know. Very excited to go. And it was everything you could possibly imagine. This will blow your mind now. It's like, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. But growing up, my sister had these 45s. And the first thing, hearing records were from my brother and sister, you know. But my sister also had Beatle cards. And I'm sure she was a huge Beatles fan. But they were both 7, 8 years ahead of me. So I was basically an only child. Even though I had them around when I was a baby. And my sister made grilled cheese sandwiches for me. And I had some influences from them. And that. But my sister had these Beatle cards. 93 or something. I started in 92 as a singer-songwriter, about almost 28 years now. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was trying to open, and I was so excited about it, I sent them a couple Beatle cards, I don't know, maybe 10 Beatle cards. Said, look, I'm all for you. And that was at the very beginning of the process where they were soliciting donations, rock and roll memorabilia. And I'm sure there's millions and billions of Beatle cards. But my Beatle cards, and I said, I don't want, you know, I should have said donated by Wood, but I didn't. I said donated by the Woodall family because they were my sister's Beatle cards. So I tried to do the right thing. So I get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I go up to the front door, and I'm standing in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, excited as hell. And I said, you know, hey, I'm Woody Wood, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm on my first tour, I'm here, I just played the Barking Spider, just on the radio. And they said, oh, well, you got your latest copy of your latest record? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, give us a copy of your latest record and you're going to get in free. I went, wow, you know? So I felt like royalty then. And so I go there, and I said, where's your Beatle exhibit? He said, it's down on the first floor. So I went down the first floor, and there's fucking John Lennon's glasses. There's fucking, you know, Ringo's ring. And there's fucking, you know, all these iconic things. And then there's Beatle cards. And I look closer and it says, donated by the Woodall family. What I learned from that tour was that it can be self-produced. You know, you don't have to have a booking agent. You don't have to have a manager. You don't have to have a publicist. And I keep talking to you about how these scammers, all these playing clubs, you don't make any money, you know. And it's because everybody that you know, that you love, so say Radiohead, they have a manager, they have a road manager, they have a publicist, they have press agents, and they all get a percentage. All the money they make, they're probably getting 50% of the money they make. And then out of that, there's the band members. So it's just pieces of a pie. And the less you put out there, the more money you make. It's more work, you know, but you also learn more, you know. If you don't do all these things, you don't learn all these things. So producing that first tour, my only tour, and I thought I was going to go out in 2008 and 2009, but I quickly realized that my notoriety had gotten so good at Woody's Point that I was actually earning my living there, but when I was away from there, I was not. So,
do you have any other plans to go on a tour?
Yes. Well, I've been wanting to go on tour every year since, and I would, but it's just, I've got to have, I need a late model car. That was the only thing that stopped me. And I started, a friend of mine, I went to her and said, look, you are more social savvy than me, and I need somebody to do that just so it seems like a community environment. Start a GoFundMe page for me. GoFundMe page, which she did 4 or 5 years ago, and I got a few $1,000s out of that. And I've saved it. I mean, I will tour at least once a year, but I want to do little jaunts, you know. The next tour, and I've been saying this for years, for 4 years now, and everybody, all my close friends know, I'm going to LA, I'm going to San Francisco, I'm going to fucking Portland, I'm going to Vancouver, and then I'm coming diagonally back, you know, and through Lubbock, you know. That's my next tour, because I did the East Coast. I want to do the West Coast. You're a performer and you need to get your shit. So this is a perfect example. My father passed in 2002. We were going to have a memorial. He wanted to be burned. Well, I'm going to be burned, you know, he was ashes. But we had a memorial in this church that they went to, you know, and I don't go to church. But we had this memorial, and because I was who I was in Richmond, I knew a lot of people. So I was not in Richmond anymore. This is 2002. But I still had deep connections, which I still do to this day. But I was still going to Richmond once a year from Key West or Baltimore or wherever the fuck I was, Austin. I was in Austin then, so. And I would still go. So I called all my friends, said, look, my father passed, we're having a memorial, I'd love it if you'd come. And a lot of them came. You know, my next door neighbors, all these people came. And then we realized there was a memorial, you got to speak at the memorial. And my sister's a singer, so she sang this lovely song, and everybody said, oh, she's so awesome. My mother sat on the front row, shell-shocked, you know. She'd been with my father, married for 59 years, and they were high school sweethearts before that. Yeah, he was the only boy she ever knew, you know. And so she's completely shell-shocked. So even though I was flirting with all the pretty girls there, and my priority was to make my mother feel better if I could. And so I got a piece of paper just like that, and I just wrote like 10 words that were each word, and I do this with my songs, and it's a gift. All I needed was this word to unlock a verse. Well, all I needed was a word. I wrote toboggan, you know. I wrote all these different words, and each word was a story about my pop. And I stood up after my sister sang, and everybody's like, whoa. And I had people were just belly gut laughing, you know. And my mother was laughing. And it was the greatest feeling in the world, man. I'm not a stand-up comedian. I've never done it before or since. But I just wrote down a word, and all you got to do is write down, yeah, bitch. And just work it up. Work it up, you know. Fucking all you need is a minute to work up, yeah, bitch, you know. And you can make it as clean as you want, you know. You can tweak it. And then all these things that we say, and it's like you make me laugh so hard, you know, and you make everybody you know laugh hard. So all you got to do is write down. You don't need to write shit, because you got a brain, you're smart as a motherfucker. You don't need to write. You're so consumed with writing. Writing is here, and memory is here. You don't need to fucking write. All you need is the idea, and you may need, because you're going to be shell-shocked, because you're standing on stage, and all of a sudden you got to perform, but all you got to do, just fucking write it on your hand. Yeah, bitch. And then flow. And you could probably flow 15 minutes on yeah, bitch. You know? You don't need to write shit. And then all that does is that will teach you so much, that first open mic. And then you'll refine and tweak, and you'll learn your process, which is what we're getting ready to talk about with me. And what you have to do as an artist is when you first start, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, right? This guy had shown me 5 chords, and I was completely consumed by the vibration. You know, it wasn't fame. I wasn't thinking famous. I was thinking, or writing great songs. I was thinking, I was so consumed that I finally achieved something. I could play an instrument where I had vibration, and the fucking words started to come out about 5 or 6 hours later. And it was like, bam! I wrote that first song, Nickel, right around midnight, and it was like the heavens parted, man. I mean, it was everything to me. And so as I kept going, I wrote a song the next day, and I wrote a song a day. You know, I wrote like 75 songs a year in the beginning, and then it was 50 a year, and now sometimes it's 35 a year, sometimes it's 50, and like I told you, I wrote 2 songs in 2 days, but I didn't write a song yesterday, you know, and it's just like, but what you do is you just keep refining and tweaking, and you learn your process. And what you have to do as an artist is you have to free up time, because time is the most important thing you have, and you have to spend the time that you have on this earth doing the thing that you think is the most important thing to you. And for you, it's art. For me, it's art. art and girls, and girls feed into the art because they inspire you, and you gotta have pussy and you gotta have this and you gotta have that, but it's like, so it's those two things, and you gotta free up enough time for you to, and what you do is you have to be inspired, but I never pick up a piece of paper and say, oh, I'm gonna write a song. I could, and a lot of people do that, and they write and write and write, and that's their process if that feeds them. But for me, I need to every day, like I've gone through a few periods in my life where I had, like this week it was one of them. I had this thing lined up, and then the party last night, and then this thing in the morning, and all of a sudden, before you know it, your calendar's full, and you got 4 days, and you don't have any space. You gotta have space every day to just sit and think and be alone, because that's where the fucking art comes from. It comes from the ether. You're just a vessel, but you gotta have that free space. And so I've learned my process, and that's very simple. I just allow myself space every day. And man, I'm fucking get on YouTube and go down a rabbit hole or whatever, but I'm alone. And in some course during the day, I'll reach for the guitar or the piano or whatever, or maybe not, maybe the lyric will come to me. And I walk to and from the bus. I'll be on the bus, lyrics come to me all the time, I don't have to have a guitar, It's like, but you have to free up your mind for space. And it's not necessarily isolationism as it is just freeing up your mind to be able to receive all the art. Well, this will help you with writing. It's like, this idea came to me.
Start it over. This idea?
This idea came to me, and it was, I can't remember if I was dreaming or not, but I have this thing called half and half, which is part of my process. Half asleep, half awake. And I have learned, in the beginning it was just intangible. I didn't even realize it. But now it's just such a conscious thing. I know that it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It just matters whether I'm going in or out of sleep. And I can be sitting in this chair, or I could be laying on the queen-size bed, whatever. I could be in a pool, But in between, when you're going in and out of consciousness sleep, I call it half asleep, half awake, and I call it HH. And I write it down. And you can go through my spiral notebooks for the last 2-3 spiral notebooks, which covers 10 years, and there'll be a HH up in the right-hand corner, which means that the idea came in half asleep, half awake. And that's part of this creating space in your brain, in your mind, to create art. And this idea came to me either in half and half or conscious, can't remember. But I was riding my bicycle on Barton Springs Road, and I was going east, and this fucking car. And the reason this idea came to me is because it happened to me every fucking day. I was riding my bike to and from, and cars honk at me and spit at me and just try to kill you all the time. I don't know if you've ridden a bike in this town, but it's a fucking nightmare. So I was riding my bike, and one of these episodes apparently went into this. I was riding my bike going east, and I was right there, Barton Boulevard, that one block really tall, and Robert E. Lee's here. I was in between. I was just getting past Barton Boulevard, and this car ran me off the road, and I had to ditch it. And he was honking his horn at me. And this is the idea, not the reality. And he was honking his horn at me, and I fucking was so fucking mad. I said, God damn it, I wish something in anger. And years ago, I gotta digress, I was living in an apartment with Tommy and Crispy, and two of my best friends. Tommy is still my best friend. I texted him last night. And Crispy has gone, nobody knows where he is or what he's doing. We think he's an alcoholic. But Tommy and Crispy were living in this house, and I didn't pay my third of the rent, and the landlady took all my shit, my bed, everything, and put it on the front yard. And I've never been more mad in my life. Her name was Cat, another Cat. I've known quite a few Catherines who go by Cat. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. Well, I can't remember how long that transpired in a 24-hour period or whatever, 40. But she was standing on the porch at some point. My shit was all over, all my shit on the front yard and Main Street. And I was standing in the yard and I said, Cat, I fucking curse you. You fucking bitch. You know, I curse you. This is going to come back and bite you in the fucking ass. And I mean, I was fucking adamant. And I've never done it since. Because a couple days later, I had long blonde hair. You know, I looked just like in that photo. See the little Polaroid? That's me and Tommy. See?
No, I don't see
right
it.
next to the door.
Right next to the door. No, there's no.
Yes.
Oh, it's wet. It's on
Yeah.
top of the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can't
That's
see it
me.
from that angle.
That's me. That is me 6 months or 1 year before this episode. And or a year and a half. And I cursed her. 2 days later, some guy who looked just like me with long blonde hair came out of the bushes and attempted to stab her on Gray Street, which was 20 blocks away in Richmond, Virginia. And it freaked her out. And I saw her later and she told me. And I thought it was you at first. And it wasn't me, of course. But it's like, since that day I never cursed anybody. Because that's fucking karma. You know, I was so angry, I cursed at her and almost got her killed. You know, this guy missed her with the knife. And yeah, so I have never cursed anybody since then. So that combined with me, I cursed at this guy and his horn stayed on. And I watched, and he was freaking out because his horn, and he's going around Barton Springs Road, and he goes by fucking Austin Cabo or whatever it used to be, Flipnotics, and he's just freaking out because, and I'm just like, holy shit! I wish that guy's horn would stay on, and it did. You know, that's how, and then I just HH or whatever, however that came.
Can you say that's how that novel started?
That's how that novel started. George Ford, A New Life and Carnal Discovery. And the reason I put A New Life is because, and a Carnal Discovery, is because I put A New Life because this to me was a new life. It's like I was writing long form. I mean, it was in the book too, but and Carnal Discovery, I put that because in the book, it's like, you know, several times in books you read, and then the lights dimmed and they kissed, and then they woke up and they had breakfast. Well, in my book, the dim lights dimmed and he held her tight, and then he started sucking on her nipple, you know? And it's like, and so every single time they got intimate, I described intimacy graphically, you know, not to be lascivious and pornish, but to just be real. And because everything else is real, but yet we never talk. And all my songs, I've written a ton of songs where that are blue songs, and I'm going to put out a blue record. I've been saying that for over 10 years. And I'm going to at some point because I've got 100 songs. You know, the first one I wrote, or one of the first ones I wrote, is Porn Number 1. You know, do you have that record? The first 5 years? Do you have the long version or the short version? Is there 17 songs or 11 songs?
17.
Good. That's unmastered. I've got a master that's 11 or whatever. But you know, other than those, I don't put those on my records because, other than that one, because, you know why, kids, I mean, I play for so many kids, I don't want people to freak out, but I'm going to eventually do a record where, you know, I put all that stuff in a record, and that's part of who you are, you know, all this stuff, and so you don't need to write. If all the time you spend doing that, if you were to go out and just pick up pennies, in 20 years, I just read this article, this guy who picked up pennies. And I passed by pennies just like you do, you know. And I realized a long time ago, like I picked up a nickel 2 days ago. I still pick up nickels or anything greater. you know. But of course, when I was growing up, you picked up a penny because you could get 2 pieces of candy for a penny, you know. And but you realize if you bend over and pick up 100 times, you only got $1, you know, and you might hurt yourself bending over, right? So you realize quickly, as time is going on in inflation, that you're not going to pick. But this guy picked up pennies, and people would pick up pennies and give them to him just because he picked up pennies. He ended up getting something like $180,000 worth of pennies, you know, and that's a lot of bread, man. So it worked out for him, you know, because he became so known as pennies. School kids, whole schools would pick up pennies and give them to him.
Give him $100.
Yeah, and it's like people were just, and I just read about that, and he had like 18 big plastic things full of pennies, you know. He had to get fucking forklifts and, you know, but, you know, and I may be saying it wrong, it might have been $500,000. It was an enormous amount of money just from picking up pennies. So there's a lesson in there, man, you know. If you're going to spend all your time doing something, fucking do something that you can see concrete, you know. I don't know the word I'm trying to think of. Writing alone, I have to write alone, and improv. I try to improv, and every once in a while, like when you're writing a song, I have to be alone, man. I've been in many situations where I try to write something, or somebody will sit down and I'll start doing like I do, and sometimes it works out, but I'm not good at improv. I've got to sit and have my mind in the space. I can be in a busy place as long as nobody's interacting with me. You know, if I'm trying to carry on a conversation, my writing skills go out the window, as they do in improv. So I just never try to improv. But like I got the first 2 lines yesterday good, you know, Julian, Milo, I'm here at Xylo, but that was it, you know. And so I never try to improv because I know my strengths and my weaknesses. And my strengths are, I got to be isolated in my mind. I can be in a million people as long as nobody's interacting with me, and I get to observe. I love to observe. That's what I do. Singer-songwriters, we're observationists. Everybody from Bob Dylan to whoever. That's what you do. You observe. And I have to write alone. And I've had millions, I shouldn't say that. I've had hundreds of songs, good songs, written because of deadlines. You know, the city has paid me to write a song, Scoop the Poop campaign. I wrote Stupid. And I had a deadline. You know, it has to be. And there's been many times when I had to write a song for this product or this or this or this, and people paid me money, and Jen Olson booked me into the Irwin Center for ESPN Game Day, and all these top people there, and Gary Clark Jr. played lead guitar on my song, which I wrote for ESPN Game Day, and I had 24 hours or 48 hours to write that. And it came out great. And so deadlines are good for me. But if it was to write a song for you in your presence, improv, never would have happened. But I got my headspace, you know, in my apartment, which was over there, and I wrote ESPN Game Day. And it came out really good. And it was like 4 or 5 verses, you know, and I performed it. And I had the UT cheerleaders behind me. Gary Clark Jr. playing lead, and he wasn't really into it, but I took him into the bowels of the Irwin Center and said, look, I wrote this song for ESPN Game Day, will you play lead on it? And he said, yeah. And he was nice as shit, and he's always been nice as shit to me. You know, we've interacted many times. He gave me his phone number to his parents' house, and I used to call him all the time. But he hasn't contacted me once since he's, you know, but the last time I saw him, I was eating at Mr. Natural, and he came up to me, and this was after he'd already done the big movie where he's in the blues movie, you know, that was the beginning of his, yeah, he did a Hollywood movie, and he was one of the stars of it. And he came up to me, I didn't even see him, and he said, hey, Woody. And I said, hey, you know, I was in my mode. I said, this is my latest record here, you know. But he was really nice and always nice to me. And I've sent him a message through Instagram. I don't have his phone number anymore. I mean, it's long since, but I mean, he's as big as you can get, you know, without being the Stones. he's pretty fucking big. I mean, he plays with the Stones anytime he wants. You know, he's been on stage. Wayne Nagel, my friend, he goes to all the Stones shows, and he's got video of Gary Clark Jr. playing right next to Ron Wood.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
And he does. I mean, he bought entails. He's like, he's got a huge ranch now in West Austin. I don't know how many hundreds of acres. Yeah.
So what just some last.
Anyway, I sent him a message on Instagram. Said, please come to Woody's Point someday so that I can record you.
Boom, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the beginning, because the whole thing of March 5th, 1992 is not on my camera.
Oh well, shit.
You know, that's like the most important. I've said that story thousands of times, and I've probably got some of it on video somewhere, but I need. See, it's best when you're interviewing me. It's better than any stuff that I did myself, where I just look at the camera. You know, it's not the same.
No, it's not the same at all. Because when you're talking to somebody, you do a different thing with you go a different place with your eyes and with your body, because you're telling a story to another human being. When you're telling a story to yourself, it's a little bit of wankery, and
you're so self-conscious.
You're so self-conscious, and there's no emotional stakes, because you're like, I'm saying words that I already know to myself. Nothing's at stake. When you're telling a story to another person, you're trying to convey truth to someone, and there's something real happening. You know, like
you're so smart, boy.
Yeah.
You're smart, boy.
All right. Okay.
That's in your DNA thing. Well, fast forward. You know, I did all the open mics and everything, and then I would try. Jen Olson, who made the. She did that Every Town Needs a Trail coffee table book, which I told you about. Her father was a personal photographer for Gerald Ford. I didn't tell you that. For 40 years, President Gerald Ford. Well, when I met Jen, I met Russ first. He was down at Auditorium Shores, the first Woody's Point, and he was down there taking pictures of some model. And he's an older man. He was like in his 60s or 70s. He's passed away now. And he was taking pictures of this model. And you know how I am. I'm so proactive. When he finished, or I even talked to him before he was finished. I said, man, because I was just starting. I used to say, man, take a picture of me and send it to me. I would do that with everybody I thought was a professional. Because I was trying to build up my portfolio, you know, and get my online presence going and all that. Because I just started a website and, you know, was just made my first music video and all that. And now it's like I get my picture taken 1,000 times a day sometimes. Because, you know, everybody's constantly coming with iPhones. I mean, I'll turn over here and I'll look over here and somebody's videotaping me all the time. But I've got a new rule the last 6 months. I said, look, everybody's, all day long, people say, hey, can I take a picture? If you sit down and let me sing a song, yes. You know, and that's increased all kinds of things by doing that. And that's another one of those little epiphanies that's taken all these years, you know, 15 years for me to say that. I should have said that in the very beginning. Yeah, you can take my picture. But you got to sit down and hear a song. Because once they hear a song, and I say, hey, this is my 28th record, I go through my spiel, you know, and I've done a 16-state tour, which that's the spiel you're going to get as soon as we get down to the trail. You don't even know that spiel yet. And it's like, see, I'm rambling, but, so,
once they sit down.
So Russ Olson, I started talking to him. When he finished, he came over and he took a bunch of pictures of me. And he let me use those for free. And later on, Jen Olson, his daughter, who's this incredibly beautiful, tall, blonde woman, you know, exactly what I like, but I like him a little younger. And she knows all this. We used to joke about this. But she was a sportscaster, and then she started doing a bunch of other stuff. And she did this coffee table book. But before she was doing it, she talked to her father and said, look, I met this old fucker down on the trail, and I took some pictures of him. You should get him in your book, is what Russ told her, you know, her father. So she came down and interviewed me. And that really was the first major thing that happened to me. That was before We'll Win, even. She put me in this coffee table book, and it took a long time for it to come out. But when it came out, there's this coffee table book, and I'm in it. And it's Willie Nelson, Matthew McConaughey, all these, Lady Bird, Ann Richards, you know, and wood, you know, mind blowing, and it's right there. This is Jen gave me a bunch of these books and told me give these to prominent people that you meet on the trail. So I've kept some, you know, and so this is Every Town Needs a Trail coffee table book, you know, and it's it was the first major piece of press that I ever got, and this was like a big deal for me, man. And Jen put me in this, and this is the old spot at Auditorium Shores, which was Woody's Point, the first Woody's Point. And the reason I call everything Woody's Point is because James Fidlon, who was you've met, I think, he played on a bunch of my records. I never see him anymore. I don't know. I drove him away. I don't know. We disagreed on things, and I think he just got tired of disagreeing. You can disagree, you know. But he would say he liked something. He turned me on to a bunch of stuff, though. He turned me on, I think, to The Wire and Breaking Bad, I think. And he turned me on to a bunch of shit, and I think the world of it. And he sends me a message every once in a while on Facebook. He says, I'm keeping track of what you're doing. You know, he's a great guitar player, and but it's so funny. He. You know, he's on a bunch of my records, and he played at Continental Club with me, my first Continental Club gig. But, you know, this is what happens in life. All of a sudden, you just lose touch with people. And it wasn't on my account. He just stopped. We used to go to lunch all the time, and, you know, and that's sad, but that's the way things go. And it's all him. The onus is on him, because I didn't stop calling him or anything, you know. I kept trying to, and it's like we just never went to lunch again. And I think it's because we disagreed on a bunch of things. You know, and that's the way life is. So,
what was it like when you saw that book for the first time, and you're like,
it was wonderful. You know, it was wonderful. Even though every bit of press I've ever got, I tried to get Jen to put my website in here, and her editor said, "No, we can't put it." But see, I was the only one unestablished, and if they put woodywood.com in here, that would have been huge for me. But because people see Woody Wood, they don't go online and Google Woody Wood, you know, most of them. And if they'd seen the website, but Jen didn't do it. But, you know, she's made it that, to me, that was a faux pas. She's made that up to me countless times. Not in her estimation, but my estimation.
What questions did she ask you? Can you give us a little...
I wrote this. I wrote this. She, you know...
Can you say, I wrote this text or something?
Yeah.
Not this.
I wrote this text. She asked me to, you know, give her a thing. I'm pretty sure I wrote this word for word when I moved to town. Yeah, it's in first person. Yeah. I have experienced many first, yeah. She just used it, you know, as a first person thing. And so Russ came over, and then I met Jen, and Jen and I went to Continental Club. We eat lunches, and she takes me to breakfast now, and we do every January. We do after the New Year we go, so we'll go again. But we just went, and she just, for my birthday, my 64th birthday, August 30th, she made a new, because I had a Woody's Point sign. So here, this is in that book. This was my sign. You know, when I first put out, the whole thing with me is organic, right? When I was at Woody's Point, people said, "What is your name?" So after hearing that a bunch of times, I put out a sign that said Woody Wood. And then Google was just starting, so I put Google Woody Wood. And I have had thousands, tens of thousands of people say, "What's Google?" This is no bullshit. This is 2005. Everybody, except for very astute tech people, were saying, "What the fuck's Google?" They were trying to bully me and be condescending. And now, where are we? 2019, is there any person on earth that doesn't know what Google is? That's mind-blowing right there. So this was out, and then as it evolved, and I put .com and Venmo, but this is, the whole thing is, Jen, that was up until my birthday, of this year, August 30th, that was my sign. And I had another sign too that that Brent made for me. This is good. You gotta get this in here. Brent was 9 years old, and he came up to me with his father at Woody's Point, the new Woody's Point, and said, "Woody, I made a sign for you." And James Fidlon, this is how we're connecting the dots, right before that, was walking on the trail, or running, and a woman was standing at Woody's Point, talking on the telephone. I wasn't there. And James just happened to pass by when she said, "I'm at Woody's Point." And apparently the postman said, "Where are you?" And she said, "I'm at Woody's Point on the trail." And James texted me immediately and said, "A woman just," and I adopted it. You know, that was one of those freak, lucky things. And now, and I just said it and said it and said it and said it. And every post I put, Woody's Point, I'm at Woody's Point. And finally people started adopting it. And now it's like, you know, I just did this big shindig for the Trail Foundation, and they put on the poster Woody's Point, and it's just, now it's just a thing. It's sometimes in the press and media that I do, they qualify it as Woody says Woody's Point, but most of the time they just say Woody's Point, which is really cool, you know. So it's become a thing. So for my birthday, Jen made a new, which you're going to see today, and this is not for the doc, but she also bought me a hunter's bag to put rifles in, this camouflaged, so I can keep it. I told her I can't lug this in and out. It's a heavy sign, you know. I'm already bringing 35 pounds every day, plus my 200 pounds of shit, you know. And I said, "Jen, I can't lug this in and out. I love it. It's an amazing gift." She said, "Well, you know, can you hide it somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, but somebody's going to find it and destroy it because people hate me, you know." And so she got this thing for me, and I took a garbage bag down, and every day I hide it in it's the same place, and I throw pine needles and leaves all over it. But I have to do it quick because I can't, the ritual of pulling it out in the morning and then putting it away, it has to be quick because everything about, I can't spend 15 minutes on 30 minutes every day pulling out a sign and displaying it and hiding it. So I've worked it out, and so far one person actually found it, but I think it was the crew that maintains, and they put it back and tied my bag and everything, put it in the same place. But if somebody finds it that hates me, because I lost my guitar strap, the custom with the Woody, with the dog logo on it, and it's gone, and nobody turned. Can you imagine? It says Woody Wood on it, and nobody returned it to me. So anyway, Jen just made this sign. It says Woody Wood and Woody's Point, and it's big and beautiful, and it's been up since my birthday, and so many people have said, "Man, it's awesome," and it's on all my photos and Instagram and everything. So Russ came. One of the first gigs I had after I met both of them was at the Alligator Grill. It was one of my first, and Evaristo played it with me, and he was a guy that I was still setting up trade shows, you know, that job that I had before I had quit, and he came and played the gig with me, and he gave me one of my first gigs too on 6th Street. I mean, I played some 6th Street when I had the full band way back, but I'm talking solo. Everything since 2004. Russ came to this Alligator Grill with Jen and this other cat, and Jen and I were just friends, you know. And he said, you know, I was playing, and after each song, he was like flabbergasted I was so good. And he's like Eric Clapton fan. I was like, you know, it's so wild because you meet people, and some people are just like, you know, I'll play a song, they're just like, that sucks, you know, that's the attitude they give me. And then some people you think are gonna like, that sucks, they're like, that was amazing. And that just blows my mind. This guy loves Eric Clapton. You know, I'm nothing like Eric Clapton. And I was playing the guitar, and he was like, I can't play the guitar compared to Eric Clapton. But, you know, but Russ took photos of this whole gig and let me use everything. And personal photographer Gerald Ford. So that was the first really big thing that happened before Will Win and all. Since then, I've met countless artists and models and all these movers and shakers who've helped me. Some have helped me out, and many have not. But those are the first. And so, so I'm at Woody's Point, and I was there, and I did all these things. There's a million stories there. But Jen, the Trail Foundation spent $50,000 at the new Woody's Point and did all this limestone, and it's quarry stone. It's a natural amphitheater. I mean, they made it. It's not natural. It's an amphitheater, and it's just amazing for sound. The trail goes, and they concreted right in front of me because the dust was a problem at Auditorium Shores. I hated it, and the reason I moved was because I got away from the TV cameras asking me about weather, and I got away from the dust. So when Jen came along and said, "Woody, you've got to check out," it's called Luneff Point, and you got to check out Luneff Point. We just spent 50 grand and made this incredible, and it's landscaped, and they got all the indigenous plants, and they maintain it every 3 weeks, and they become the crew that maintains it. They're great friends of mine. It's Matt, Ernesto, and was John. John is gone, and his father. It's amazing. In the middle of the city, I've got a bald cypress that's 500 years old. Was there before George Washington. Right here, and it's all kind of squirrels, and the squirrels, Peanut, has got all these stories about Peanut. Peanut has their own Facebook page. She passed away now, and her daughter is Psycho Nut, because she likes pecans even more than Peanut did. And Peanut, I fed her peanuts, and Psycho Nut can't stand peanuts, and no squirrels like peanuts, because peanuts are not nuts. But Peanut loved peanuts, so I named her Peanut, and I'd feed her about 15 to 25 peanuts. And she would sit on my guitar, and I could nuzzle her neck with my nose while I fed her peanuts. I've never been able to do that with any other squirrel. And people would come by and freak out because I'd be sitting there nuzzling her neck, Yeah, it was mind-blowing. So I started a Facebook page for Peanut. So there's all these stories like this, right? Well, Psycho Nut is now there, and you'll see. I'll take some pecans down, and I don't see her every day, but that's just about. I'll see her every day, but she'll be in the tree, but she doesn't come down every day, or when I'm there. I'm not there all day long. So I did that. So I was at Auditorium Shores, and Jen told me about this, so I started going to Luneff Point and playing. One day I played, go back to Auditorium Shores the next day, but quickly I realized Luneff Point, which became Woody's Point, I quickly realized Woody's Point was the shit. So I stopped going to Auditorium Shores. But in the interim, and I've done this many times, one day I'll just take off and I'll go stand in front of NBC, right on the street. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's like, I'll go up and stand in front of the local NBC affiliate and just play for an hour. And it gets all kinds of tongues wagging, and cars stop, and they see the guitar and the bandana and the hat, or at least the bandana and the warm weather, and they always honk their horn and wave. And I don't mind if I'm performing, but if I'm walking down the street, I tell all my, don't honk your horn. And that goes for you. If you ever see me walking, don't honk, roll your window down and say, "Woody!" That's what I tell people. So I get a lot of, "Woody!" I hear it constantly, but no horns. But it used to be, because I used to do this a lot, and I'm going to do it again. I'm getting ready to start doing it again. I'm going to have an accordion player with me. I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, so I was going back and forth. Well, one day, there's a little hill right on the other side of Barton Creek from Woody's Point, which is right behind the ball fields in Casa de Luz. And I was standing up there on a Sunday, and I was playing, and all of a sudden, here comes Ann Richards. And I said, "Ann, you're the reason I moved to Austin." Scared the shit out of her. She booked, right? Well, she was already dying of esophageal cancer. She had the IV in her arm, and she had tape. And so I said, "Shit, I just fucking," she changed my life, I want to tell her, and she's gone. So that was like 3, 4 o'clock on a Sunday. I said, "I'm coming back on Sunday at 3 or 4 o'clock. And I came back, same spot, and here she comes again. And I said, "Ann, I'm sorry I screamed at you, but and she didn't run, but she just kept walking. And I got as much out of it as I could. And then I came back the next Sunday, same time, and here she comes again. And sometimes she had people with her, and sometimes she didn't. And I said, Ann, I'm so sorry, but and the fourth time I did the next Sunday, and she was dying. And she came, and I came down onto the trail, and she came over and put her hand on my arm and let me talk for 5 minutes. And I told her, I said, as long as I'm alive, you're going to be part of my story. It'll be a very small part of your legacy, but it's a huge part of mine because you changed my life, because I moved to Austin because I saw you on Johnny Carson. And it's officially, it's on Jay Leno. But I love Johnny Carson. I don't like Jay Leno the same. So I always tell people Johnny Carson. But it was really, because Johnny Carson last year was 93. And I didn't realize that my memory, selective memory, the whole time when I've always been lying, I thought it was Johnny Carson. But I went back a few years ago and I checked. You can look up these things. And Jay Leno took over right after Johnny Carson, and that's when Ann Richards was on. She was probably on with Johnny Carson too, but I didn't happen to see that one. You know, she was on every year. She was a hot potato for like 10 years or whatever. Neither was. Anyway, so she came over and put her hand on my arm, and I got to tell her, I said, look, you're the reason I moved to Austin. You changed my life. And as long as I'm alive, I'm going to tell every time I do media, and it's something involved with Austin, I'll say that. And I have. I've lived up to that. And we're going to put it in this. This is going to be a prominent thing. It might only be 30 seconds, but, you know, Ann Richards is the reason I moved to Austin, Texas. And so the next day or the day after that, she passed away. And I was sitting at Auditorium Shores, and my phone rang. And it was this phone, you know, it's one of the smartphone. This is 2005 or 6 or whatever. And it was one, I'd already been on TV a bunch of times, and it was one of the TV times I was on. They actually came to Silo Studios and videotaped me. You know, they did this whole doc, and you know, and came and interviewed me, showed me recording on my 4-track, I guess it was then, and all this stuff. And she got me at Woody's Point and everything. And the camera woman called me up and said, Woody, we're doing a piece on Ann, and we want you to come on air and say something about her, because we know you're... And I said, well, how long before you get here? And they said 15 minutes. I wrote a song called Miss Ann in 15 minutes. And I'll play it for you if you want. This is Miss Ann. Barely a glimpse of light through the trees. Won't be long now before night captures me. Whoa, now Miss Ann has gone. Gone for another one of her long walks. She was a raging beauty, inside as well as out. From level land to Buda, she had to pick whatever bound. I was working for dollars a week, wasn't sure when I'd eat. But I begun to play this guitar. A new home was what I was looking for. Late at night on the TV dial, Johnny Carson had him in the aisle. And Richards with a Texas drawl, the Austin music scene was all she taught. She was a raging beauty, inside as well as out. From level land to Buda, she had to pick whatever bound. She changed things around these here parts. Before she come, it was run by a bunch of old farts, and brought everyone into the mix, and ended all of the selective picks for little anyway. She was a raging beauty, inside as well as out. From level land to Buda, she had to pick whatever bound. light to the trees. Won't be long now for night captures me. Woke now, Miss Ann has gone. Gone for another one of her long walks. Let's see, and Ann Richards, man, she meant a lot to me. Oh.
That was awesome.
Thank you. You know, when you constantly tweak, and it's like sometimes you try something in the middle of performance, because that's how you do it. But you fuck up when you try. If you don't do what you know, and you try something, it's like the tempo will go off. They had a memorial at Irwin Center, and I found out about that. It was like a day or two later, and all these people came and spoke about Ann and everything. And I just went and hung out on the sidewalk outside of Irwin Center, and I saw a camera crew up at the top of the stairs, and I just ran up and said and told them my story, and I played the song, and I got on air anyway. I was on the bus yesterday, and I got on. Every time I get on, it doesn't matter, because I carry the harmonica around on my thing, because I put it on the gig bag. That's more weight on the straps, and it's just not good for it. So I always say, and plus, I'll come up on kids or a pretty girl, I'll blow a little something, you know. And now I've been playing harp for 28 years. Come March 5th, 1992, I'm fucking starting to get good at it, right? So I'm still a terrible player, but because you listen to somebody who's good, and it's like they can do any melody you want, and I can't do that, you know. I just play in key, and I can do runs, and I can do melody, but I just don't have that desire to fucking. You have to sit there and go da 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 dum 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 da 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 da, and I just don't have. I've never wanted to do scales, you know. Most people when they start, they do scales, you know, and it's like, and I'll do scales once in a while, but I'll just do it fucking around. I can't sit there and go da 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 da. I just can't. That makes me not want to play, and so right in the beginning, where most people get guitar lessons or what, I didn't get any guitar lessons, you know. I've never gotten a guitar lesson, and that was the reason, because I wrote a song the first day, and most people never write a song, you know. So the whole reason I got into music was because I was able to get the melodies and the words out of my mind and create something that, well, we've already been over this, that I didn't have to collaborate with. And it was the whole crux of this whole biscuit, is that I'm creating art that brings me joy, and it's mine. It's all mine, you know. And that's the crux of the biscuit. So anyway, I've got all this stuff out, and stuff would be missing, you know. I'd always jump up and play for the Zilker Zephyr, which is a kiddie train. And when I come back, something would be gone. And that happened for years. And then things escalated, and one day I got there, and right in front of me in the view, across the trail, in the dirt, but right in was a big pile of dog shit, with nobody picked up, right? And I said, okay, so that'll happen sometime. Well, the next day was another pile of dog shit. It was a little closer. And then one day I came around, and right where I sit, there was a pile of dog shit. And I was like, God damn it. You know, one day I came around, there was 27 little teeny piles of dog shit all over, everywhere that I sit. And I was like, man, this is fucking fucked up, you know. So things continued like that, and one day, you know, all my cards would be gone, you know. And then one day somebody stole my video camera out of my bag. But I think that's the one thing that's not related to the stalker. I think a homeless person stole that, and if they needed money and they got some money for it, I'm okay with that. But I lost a bunch of fucking shit that was in the camera, memory cards, all kind of stuff. Yeah, this was like when I first moved, 2007 probably. This is called a plectrum officially. That's Latin. It's a guitar pick. And that's my dog logo, which I drew in 1992 when I first started. And it's on everything. And I drew it 1,000 times.
Okay, you can put it down.
Well, it says Woody Wood on the back.
Okay.
And I drew it 1,000 times and I never could get it exactly right. And one day this album size thing, and I've got it here somewhere, the original, but I moved in and it's like, I don't know where it is. And I pulled out a red magic marker and fucking drew a big one, and it was it. And I've put, that's what you see, everywhere you see it. I've got a bunch of distant bastardized versions of my dog logo, but the original dog logo is from this thing. And so that was the thing. And the other thing I wanted was a music video. So I mastered this record, and I said, I want to make a music video. I didn't have a video camera. I didn't know anything about how to do it. And one of my regulars, I can't remember his name. He was Spanish. He was Latino. I've got it in my notes everywhere, but I don't know. I'd have to look at stuff. And he was one of my regulars, and somehow we got to talking, and he said, well, I can, help you with that. I've got a video camera. And his girlfriend was beautiful, and his girlfriend's girlfriend was really incredibly beautiful. And so somehow I've got all that pieces together, and we shot her. She was incredibly beautiful. We shot her all over Austin. We shot her at Mount Bunnell. We shot her on Town Lake, the Auditorium Shores. We shot her on Congress Avenue. We shot her everywhere. Behind him, doing every shot, and directing her, Adiana, everywhere. And then when we went to mix, we went to UT, because he was a UT student or ex-graduate or whatever. And we used their facilities, and we did it, and he sat down in a chair and mixed, and I made every cut and everything we did. And it turned out good, for a first video. And then after that, I went to the Austin Television, Community Television. They have a little workshop that they gave classes, and I think I paid $35 to learn how to edit tape to tape, which is way back. This is 2005, and I learned how to. And then I got my first camera, and then I've made thousands of music videos since then. And I've got hundreds on YouTube, and I've just crossed over 100 on MetaCafe. I'm putting all my new ones for the last year, but I'm putting on MetaCafe. And I got 60,000 views in 14 years on YouTube. And I've gotten 25,000 views in 1 year on MetaCafe. And I've had one video go viral. Back in the day, 2006, 2007, I shot all these babies. I did 2 different ones because the first one was so successful. And MetaCafe picked it up, because when I first started making videos, I put them on every service, And if you put them on YouTube, there's 1,000 video services in Beijing. They all pick them off of YouTube. Well, I also placed it on Vimeo and MetaCafe and different things. And MetaCafe took that baby video and put it on their front page, and I got 10,000 views in a week. It was the only video I've ever had going viral. And then they took it off the front page, and it went back to 10 views a day or whatever. And so that was very exciting. And so Your Beauty is the name of the song. It's the first song on the record. Have I hold this up yet?
Hold the back of it up.
All right.
So
on the back is a 1955 nickel. I was born in 1955. And that is I'm going to just say it's an oak tree. And the 1955 means a lot to me. 5 means a lot to me. Everything happens to me with 5. It's not a lucky number, but it just keeps coming up, and it comes up constantly. Every day it comes up. And now it's gotten to the point where people tip me purple 5s because they know my thing about 5, and it just has a lot. 5 has a lot. But Your Beauty is the first song, and I'll sing it for you right now if you want.
Do it.
This is Your Beauty. Life is good when you're near, so don't you disappear. You're the girl I'm ain't no other. Even though it's tough, don't forget me as your lover. You're a beauty, the kind that makes me act stupid. At least so you notice it. Don't notice it, girl. Premonitions I have had, but derisions it would always be bad. Now I see what was in my head terrorized me. I needed to be bled. Your beauty, the kind that makes me act stupid. At least so you notice it.
Awesome.
I'm going to do some truncated versions of stuff that'll be good. Okay. So we're done with this record.
Well, let's see.
I mean, this, you know, all the songs are good, but it's like we can't.
Can't take forever on everyone.
Yeah. I mean, She is on this, and She is a really, really good song, but it's on other records.
Okay, could I see?
And music is a good thing.
You're right. You're right. Boom. Next. The first 5 years.
Okay, we're not going to do any of that, but
Yeah, because it's just
well, I'm going to talk about it though.
talk about it, and I want to hear the story of Pure Joy.
Okay.
Talk about the record, and then I'd love to hear Pure Joy, or not the actual. Not we don't need to do the song, but
No. See, lyric books are invaluable, man.
can you tell me about that lyric book?
Okay. Do you want Pure Joy first or the lyric book first?
And just talk about Pure. Or no, sorry, I'm skipping around.
That's all right.
Next album was blah, 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 blah,
Okay. Okay. As I said, I drew this logo. I drew this logo in '92, and it's on everything. And this is the first compilation. It's like I mastered my first record, Whole Nother Life. And then a few months later, I said, you know what? I've got all those cassettes. And I'm going to cherry pick all my favorite songs off of those cassettes, even though they're not mastered, and then put it on a record and master it. And so this was the first one, and there's 21 songs on this. And what I did is I cherry picked this record and 11 songs, because mastering costs a lot of money. And I mastered 11 songs, so there's 2 versions of the first 5 years, which is saying that's the first 10 years. That was a play on words. I like 5 for the first 5 years, and so the official mastered version of the first 5 years is only 11 songs, but this one's 21 songs, and I love all the songs. And these are the songs. Maybe not the first time, but very shortly, when I get a full band and I've got lots of money and I can pay musicians and I've got the best studio and the best engineer, I'm going to flesh out. These are going to be full. I mean, some of them are going to have orchestras and shit, you know? That's the dream, right? Because none of these have never been done. And one of the songs on here is Pure Joy. And I'm not going to play Pure Joy. Pure Joy is...
Tell me about it. Like how
it was like the first song, you know, this is from before Whole Nother Life. It's the first song that I recorded that I was just like, you know, it's up-tempo, and I just love singing it, you know. Because you are the one because you never pun, because you always run away. I just love that, you know. And it's like this. This one, this thing. It's something like. It's like I can't remember how it goes. I have to hear it. Yeah, but I can't remember what. Yeah, that's what it is. No, it's something like that. But anyway, it just, you know, it's like, you know, it's we can play some of these songs, you know, in the doc, you know, or some of the video.
Tell me this. So, do you remember writing Pure Joy? Do you remember actually writing it and recording it?
Yeah.
What started that? What was the inspiration for that one specifically?
You know, I did 2 songs at the same time, Pure Joy and Free.
Yeah, I'm going to take that away from you because you keep looking down at it.
Okay. I think it's Free, and Free never made it on a record. And Free is fucking this great song, and I came up with it, and I think I came up with the verse of Pure Joy the same way. I was riding my bicycle down, and here's Free. And Free is, I was looking down, as I do, I just told you I found the $1,609, you know. I'm always finding shit, and I'm like a crow, I bring home shiny shit. And I was riding my bike, and I was right there across from the little shopping center that's just a few over from Broken Spoke. And I was looking down, and there was, you know how asphalt gets so fucking hot around here, it's like 100 degrees all the time in the summer or more. And there was a fucking pacifier stuck in the asphalt. And I looked down and I said, a pacifier lying in the middle of the road. And then some weird kind of tar and asphalt compote. Somewhere there's a mouth crying to be fed. At the time, taking flight was a good idea. And it's like the baby, you know, gotta have a pacifier, but he threw it. And then all of a sudden you don't have a pacifier, so he's crying. That's the first verse of Free. And the same time, Pure Joy came about the same way. I think you know, both those were at the same time, and Pure Joy just ended up being on records, and Free never did. But Free is the same type of song. It's the up tempo, and it's a rocker, you know, and eventually it's going to be a rocker. So Pure Joy's a rocker. And
tell me, the actual recording has an energy to it, but it's so distorted.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It's recorded on 4-track, you know, and all my 4-track shit. Even when you got something amazing, you have to ping pong, bounce the 4 tracks. You have to bounce 3 tracks to the 1 track. And you can do several generations, but every time you do, you lose some audio, you know? You lose some fidelity. And so, there's a lot of shit on Pure Joy, you know? And I got really good at using the 4-track, but even so, every time you bounce, you lose, you know? And so, it creates this, you know, the Phil Spector thing, a wall of sound, but not, his wall of sound is 12 bass players playing the same note. My wall of sound was all the fucking distortion and all the shit you get, and these weird sounds come out from the bouncing. It's like you bounce and you bounce and you bounce, and you record, you know, 3 tracks of background vocals, and all of a sudden these weird sounds come out, and it's, you know, it's neat. A lot of people believe, I mean, all these great songwriters who are into audio and stuff, they have 4 tracks that they use at home to this day, because they can capture their shit, and they can, like Keith Richards, I don't know if he does it, because he was never bone one like that, I don't think, but he can, like Ryan Adams, he can take that fucking 4-track to rehearsal and play, you know, it's got drums and bass and guitar and everything, and vocals on it, and the band can hear exactly what his ideas are, and then they can tweak that, you know, as opposed to him. A lot of people come into the rehearsal with acoustic guitar and play their song, and you don't get the same dynamic as a rock and roll song, folk song, blues song, R&B song, you know. But with fucking a 4-track, you get the songwriter's fucking idea in a more cohesive thing, you know. So. I'm not, it's not coming to me.
Okay.
But it's a great song. And what happens is man over there looking in this beer for lost time. Woman on the other side wondering why she's here. Me, I'm the lucky one. I mean, I'm not committing crime. I'm in this place to chase my dream. And it's like, it's one of the first songs I wrote. I'm like, God damn, you know, I'm starting to actually write good lyrics, you know. And I was so excited about this song that I hired one of my first pros, Neil Flons. Neil Flons was on the last Graham Parsons record. He played with all, he's a steel, pedal steel. And right in my other Xylo, I hired him. I think I paid him $100 for one song, or something like that. And he came over, he plays with, he might be passed away now, because he was old as shit. But he lived in Nashville for a long time, I think. I mean, he played with on all these amazing records, you know. But he was playing with all these broken spoke country bands. And he lived in this little apartment complex right over a few blocks away, over by the Ann Richards School. And he came over, and it took him 45 minutes to assemble his pedal steel guitar. And it was fascinating. And he was telling me all these stories, and I played him a few songs. I didn't know which one to put him on. And each time he said, I don't hear any pedal steel on that, or something like that. I don't hear no steel guitar on that. And I was like, oh fuck, you know. And I said, look, and I knew bar, I heard it, steel guitar on bar. I wish I could fucking play it, man.
Get it right, motherfucker.
It's like, if I could hear it, that would be the jank.
Do you not have a... Okay, we're cutting. Just for a sec. Actually, no, we're not cutting. We're not cutting. I'm just going to leave it rolling. Give me that record, and I'm going to put it on your laptop.
Well,
right
I've got it on my...
On your iTunes.
Yeah.
Just, no, stay there, because I'll play it.
On iTunes, man. Well, I don't even need to play it. We just need to hear it. It's like a different capo or something.
Card's full.
That's what we need to do is play that because it's got Neil Flons for your doc. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play it live.
Okay.
It's like, but that's not the version.
This is the version.
No, there's no steel on that. And
Well,
I
that's the version on the first
fucked up the
2 views.
vocal, but it's he's amazing. I'll get that out. That'll be, you know.
Okay.
But I didn't finish telling the story about it. I only got one more sentence, but it's important.
All right.
Tell me when you're ready.
Not really. I ain't ready. We got so much good shit so far, dude. This is
Yeah, so it's gonna be like this the whole way through. I got a story for every fucking song.
All right, hit me.
So he said, I don't hear any steel on that, you know. And finally I said, look, I know Bar's got steel on it. Let me play it for you. And I played it for him again and said, well, look, I'll tell you what. I'm going to make a pass on it. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay me. And he fucking nailed it first fucking time. And on the little 4-track. And, you know, and I just had a Shure 57 up against his amp. And fucking, it's the most beautiful of all the shit I've had done on my records by all these people, it's the most beautiful musician pass take of any. And I've had some incredible baritone saxophone and bass playing and lead guitar and vocals. Well, Dia, it's right up there with Dia. We're going to get to Dia here in a little bit. So anyway, he nailed it, but I never could get my vocal right. And I put the song on. Which record was that you just played?
The first 5 years.
Okay, well, Bar is on Whole Nother Life, and that's the version that that he's on. Neil Flanz, and it's Flanz.
All right, let's hit the next record, sir.
Okay. The next record is.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna cut.
Now I need these all in order. So here, put that.
I know we're putting them in reverse. There's a system to this. We're putting them in reverse order.
Okay.
Which one is that?
Just July.
Oh, here we go. We're getting to the hits now. Could I see that one?
I need you to be, because I want you to sit right here, right now, and just say what you said to me about your mom. What you told your mom. Dude, that was...
Oh, when I said he's one of... Yeah.
Yes, I need that. Because that's like affirmation, man.
We'll do that.
Confirmation. You want to do it right now?
No.
Okay.
No, we're in the... You're not getting out of this.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got... Okay, this is when you're starting to hit a stride here, because you've got Baby, Duet, and I'm Mad. And I'm Mad's one. You've always described I'm Mad as one of the first great songs. Easily. Like
I've never said I got a great song. I say that over and over. I haven't written a great song, but it's the first song that I wouldn't change anything about the recording. Is what I've said.
Okay, so
I've never said I've first great song.
Oh, okay. So what's the next record you did?
Just July.
So first record I did was Just July. You can't answer my questions. You got to go. And then it was
Not
just
first.
I'm sorry.
This is the next record I did, Just July. And it's funny, Jen Olsen was part of my life then as a friend. She's been a great friend. And when I told her Just July, she said, I don't like it. And it's like, but to me it's alliteration, Woody Wood. It was fucking summertime. And I was just like, everybody's complaining about the heat. And I said, it's just July. I thought it was a great title, and it's a good record. So
that one has Baby on it. Tell me about Baby.
Well, do you want to hear Baby or do you want to hear I'm Mad?
I want to hear both of them, but we're going to start with Baby.
Okay, Baby. It's got Duet on it too.
I know. We're going to hear all three of those motherfuckers. Just do what I tell you.
All right. Baby. Let's see here. Baby. What did I? There's a story about this, and I can't think of what it is.
Okay, well then give me the I'm Mad story.
Baby was the first song that I wrote that was a pop song. It's like... And I used to play it everywhere. That was like Baby and Duet came out at the same time. And I was always... Come on down. Come on down. Come on down, my lady. That was, that was the first song I wrote that was a pop song, that I could hear on the radio. And it never got this full thing it needed until My City Austin, but it's not... I listened to My City Austin's Baby this morning. It's one of the songs I like on it, but it's still not right. But I'm Mad. I was at Auditorium Shores, and I was sitting on the rock. I sat on the stone wall after a while, but Sundays, when it was summertime, the shade of the tree, I would sit on the stone under the shade of the tree, and there's a gazebo behind me, and the pond. And this was the first song. All songwriters steal, right? And they all admit it. And you can't be a great songwriter without stealing, right? And I never adhered to that. I always
everything would come out of my head, you know. But of course you have all this stuff that you're listening to all the time. I listen to so many people. But this was the first time I stole something. And I just noticed how so many people would, you know, and I was like, huh, you know. So I came up with this. I went, as pretty as you are to look, it's a way. You read my book when I've had a day that's just been bad. Honey, I'm mad for you. When I hear the tumbler fall down, little voices and a running sound, what you cooking fills my house. Honey, I'm mad for you. Runners run, trying to get there in the sun. It doesn't matter where trees rush by. You think you're flying, but you've got wings. You feel like a lion, honey, I'm mad for you, honey, I'm mad for you, honey, I'm mad for you, honey, I'm mad. That was the first song I wrote. And I wrote it there sitting on that rock, and Will Wynn came up. I can't even remember why he came up. I said, Will! You know, I was so excited. He was the mayor. I said, you got to come here. I just wrote this song. You got to hear it. So he came over and stood right next to my rock. And I played in that song, and he went, wow, that is really good like that. And I was like, it was one of the first times that somebody important said that I was good, you know? And so it was a huge freaking deal, man. I'm mad. And it was like the first time I wrote a song and I was like, you know what? I can't write a better song than that. You know? And it's so simple. And I got it just by stealing, you know, it's like single note run is what I did. I stole a single, I didn't steal the actual notes, but I just, you know, there's some of the greatest songs ever written are start off with a single note run intro. You know, I don't even know if that's the right way to call it, but that's what I call it. I mean, you can everything from Brown Sugar to like that song on Midnight Cowboy that I love so much that Harry Nilsson sang, but Fred Neil wrote it. Fred Neil is just amazing. Anyway, so
That's awesome, man.
duet.
Duet. Okay.
Duet is huge.
Let's duet. Duet's a big fucking deal.
I haven't sung duet in forever.
Oh, hang on.
Are you ready?
No, I'm not.
It's when I took the capo off, put the capo on, put the capo off, and I haven't tuned up, but that's so far it sounded pretty good, right?
Sounded great.
Usually, anytime you put a capo on, you want to tune up.
Okay, so play duet.
Okay. It's raining. Can't rest today. Let's get some chicken round Curville Way. Kinda glad it rained. There's a pretty little girl there, have the color of rain. She's smiling. center table. To me, she's a sweet little prize, and you can bet your bottom I'm able. I'm from Detroit. My daddy had an RV park there, but it wasn't my choice. I greet people who work, yeah. I love what I do, but there's one man I got my eye on. When it's all said and gone through, hope comes round here again. I can't believe my eyes. There she is at the center table. To me, she's a sweet little prize, and you can bet your bottom I'm able. 17 years and she's still my best friend. If she hadn't come along, I wouldn't be living. She saved me, now we're together. This time it's worth a whole lot more. Can't rest today. Let's get some chicken round Kerrville way. Kinda glad it rained. There's a pretty little girl there, hair the color of rain. She smiled and winked at me. Kinda glad it rained. Kinda glad it rained. Kinda glad it rained. That's a duet, and I've got two major stories for that. This couple were walking up. I was sitting in Auditorium Shores, and this couple were walking up, and they both had all brand new clothes on, so I knew they were tourists, right? And I just started talking to them, and they were country folk, I'll put it that way. And they were from it's a town west of here. It's in the thing, right? Maybe not.
Kerrville?
Kerrville, yeah.
So let's take it from
Well, they weren't in Kerrville.
Say they were
Anyway,
from Kerrville.
Yeah, I guess they were from Kerrville. I'm thinking of another song, but maybe another town. But anyway, they walked up, we got to talking, and I sang them a song, they loved it, and they were really nice, but they told me the story, and that was their story. He had been working on the ranch, and he liked fried chicken, and he'd gone into KFC. He would go to KFC and eat fried chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken, for his lunch. And there was this girl in there. She was cleaning the center table when he got there, and it's like they fell in love. And they've been together for 20, when I wrote this, 20-some years. Now it's been, and so anyway, their story was so compelling, you know, that I said, stop, start over, and I pulled out my video camera and I videotaped it. And I went home and watched the videotape and wrote that song, and the song just poured out. And the cool thing about it is, I mean, you can tell the story. I mean, I told you she was from Detroit, and her daddy had an RV park, you know, and it wasn't my choice, but now I greet people who work, yeah, and she's like, she loved what she was doing. But they fell in love, and they've been living in Kerrville ever since. And I just lost, you know, it was that one-time thing. And that's all I knew. I knew their first names. I knew they lived in Kerrville. And so all this time passed, and duet became this thing. I played it everywhere. I played it at the Irwin Center. I played it at the Continental Club. I played it, you know, all these places. I played it on a 16-state tour, you know. And then just a few years ago, it's 2019 now, 2015, 2016, I said, you know what? The internet's gotten so good. I Googled their first names in Kerrville and followed a bunch of things down the rabbit hole and found them. And I sent them a text message and said, look, duet has become, they didn't even know they were in a song, you know? They knew nothing. All they knew is they had the only contact they'd ever had with me is I'd sung them a song and then they left after I'd told them this. They told me their story, and so I told them all about it. And I sent them all these videos of duet, and you know, and I sent them the record, I think, and it was a big deal.
You described it as one of your signature songs.
Yeah, it's one of my what I call them. I don't know. I've got some songs that I used to call bullshit songs. I still sort of call them that. You know, I love you more than anyone could. It's because the way you smile at me. That's you. And it's like I have all these songs, probably about 25, that I've written over 1,000 songs. I only do originals. I don't do any covers. And I call them bullshit songs because they come to me so easy. I can sit there, you know, go, Julian's got a big mouth, and he's got big feet. He's also got a big head, because he thinks so much of me, you know. It's like, and see, improv worked that time. And I told you, I could write 10 songs in the next hour. But they would be bullshit songs, and maybe one of them would end up being great, but I never do that. I never do that because I just let inspiration come to me. You know, I noodle and then something comes. And but sometimes those bullshit songs come out and I say, oh, okay, fuck it, and I write it down. And I used to never perform them anywhere. You know, you was one of the first. I mean, there was ones before you. I can't think what is, but I've got several. Like Your Beauty is kind of a bullshit song, and but the first time I sang to a pretty girl, they loved it so much. I stopped calling them bullshit songs, even though I sort of call them bullshit songs. But now, like Baby is one. You.
If people love it, it's not bullshit.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you think about
it. Exactly.
Can you say that? Can you repeat?
It's
what
like,
I just...
well, you know, when the girls said they loved the song, then all of a sudden I had a greater appreciation for the song, and they no longer were bullshit songs. Even though I still say that, I use that terminology because they come so easy. You know what I just did about your feet and your big head. You know, they just come out, and it's like, but when you play, because girls love harmonica. If you got a halfway decent voice and you play harmonica and you can start to play guitar decent, man, you get, man. I mean, if I was 25 years old, good God Almighty, you know. But you know, I had to go through what I had to go through because I remember, you know, there's been 100 people say, man, you used to suck. They don't say that, but it's like I would sit in Xylo and sing them a song, and I would not get the response. And now, every day, like I said, 99 out of 100, when I sing them a song, they give me the response that I've always dreamed about. Joy just erupts on their face. And they get this, I mean, yesterday it happened so many times, 50 to 100 times, right? I was sitting at Woody's Point. I sang to Jackie and Anna yesterday. And Jackie had been, I've sung her song before, she's in one of my music videos. I've shot video of her. But yesterday she brought Anna. And this is what happens over and over and over again. And it's like people, their jaw, it's just that, you know, they can't believe that, and they tell me over and over, why are you here? You know, why aren't you, you know, whatever their summation of success is. Why are you not on the radio? Why aren't you not on tour? Why are you not selling millions of records or whatever? And it's like, and I just tell them, oh, I'm not young and beautiful, and you know, and I stopped over a decade ago. I never did really send in my records to labels. Nobody cares about being on labels anymore because that's not the thing. But still, you have to be given a shot by, you know, Terry Lacona and Austin Seagram's TV show. You know, that's my dream, to get on that, because once I get on that, I can play continental clubs all over the world and pay a band really good and just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm plenty happy to just keep doing exactly what I'm doing. I just want to be able to play to hundreds of people at once, every once in a while, like once or twice a week. and then still go sit at Woody's Point because I love being at Woody's Point. I'm healthy, and it's blue sky, and it's birds and squirrels and woods and the ball cypress and the water and girls in bikinis walk by going to Barton Springs Pool or they paddle by. And I constantly meet and get to talk to interesting people. And people from all over the world come by, from every country you can name, man. And, you know, I've carved out this niche and now it's expected of me to be there. It never fails when I'm walking to Woody's Point in the morning, somebody says, "You're late." That happens every day, at least once, sometimes several times. And sometimes it pisses me off. I say, "Man, I'm never fucking late." You know, I'm never late. You can cut that out. I'm never late. I set my own schedule, you know. But sometimes it makes me angry because, look, I came down here to play music for you, and you're giving me negativity. It's always a guy, you know. Guys, there's women and there's guys. Guys, they don't know how to be nice initially in your initial contact. They got to put you down because they're fearful. They're insecure that you're better than them. This is my philosophy anyway. And girls almost never do that. Some girls do, the ones that are in the army or whatever, who are, you know, who eat at the Y or whatever. But most of them don't either. Because I know thousands of lesbians and they're just as wonderful as heterosexual women. But it comes from fear, you know. It's like guys just when you get a bunch of guys together, they're cutting on each other constantly. That's just the way it is. And it's not that way with women. That's why I like women so fucking much. And when I finish a song, I get pure whatever they're feeling. You know, there's no fucking filter. And especially with kids. You know, I had a kid last week. Her father and her brother and this really cute little 8 or 9 year old girl. And I finished the song and the father was like, "Whoa, that was so good." And I said, "Hey, how did you like it?" And the brother said, "Man, it was great," you know. And the girl was like, like that, you know, because she's, thanks Taylor Swift or whoever, Billie Eilish or whoever the latest thing, you know. But she has no idea that those people are using auto-tune. And they've got millions of dollars behind them. They can have any engineer and any recording format, and any musician, and they even have help writing their songs, and you know. And it's like, but you can't explain that to a 9-year-old. You just got to take it, you know. And I just turned and I looked at her and I said, "Man, you are hard to please." And her father went, "Mm-hmm," like that. And it was hilarious. But see, I love that unfiltered, you know, pure joy or disdain.
We're doing great. This is the best. This is the best shit yet. It's the best looking
Well,
footage.
it's the music, you know.
It's also it's. I'm filming it in a much better way. It's all a learning process.
Yeah.
This looks so much better. It's really much better to have a zoom lens. So I'm like it's a close up of your face like 3/4 of the time, which is great. Great. Before we had wide shots where it's like boom, 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 boom. That's important too.
Well, you won't be able to see how fat I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't want that. Okay. Oh,
Take that.
switch batteries. Just you mind. All right. Now we're getting into this is like Beggar's Banquet now. Oh shit. No, it's all right. You good? We're getting into the essentials. The jumping jack flash.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. This is easily the best record.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You're right. It is.
I mean, it's like, you know, there's some songs on here that aren't recorded right, but they're fucking, you know.